Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Kaido was defeated. I went to West Blue to resurrect Big Brother Homelander. Chapter 21. New World. New Naval Headquarters Marine G1 Branch. Top level. Inside the office of Marshal Marine. Akainu held the phone bug and said solemnly, I ask you, where are you now? What? On the other end of the phone bug. The green cow, which was flying through a flower growing on its back, replied, I'm in the air, Mr. Sakazuki. Where is the sky? Akainu accentuated a little bit. Ha ha ha. Green Bull laughed loudly and stopped hiding. Actually, I have already arrived at Wano-kuni. Akainu's face suddenly became gloomy, and he said coldly, go to Wano-kuni and never do unnecessary things. If you can clean up the mess, you can clean up the mess. If you can't, then withdraw. Do you understand? There is news from the world government that CP0 has also sent someone to Wano-kuni, please pay attention. It's really long-winded, I know. Green Bull showed a disapproving expression, and hung up the phone worm neatly. Boo, boo, listening to the hung-up bug. Akainu put down the phone bug, his face became extremely gloomy. This green cow actually sneaked up to Wano-kuni, didn't he know that even if he went to Wano-kuni now, he might have to be slapped twice? Do you really think the Straw Hat Pirates are vegetarians? Thinking of this, Akainu couldn't help clenching his fists. Former four emperors Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin became the stepping stones for Straw Hat Luffy, now the pressure is on Marine's side, I just hope the Green Bulls can control their proportions in Wano-kuni. There is also a big problem with the World Summit. The Revolutionary Army under the leadership of Sabo repelled the two admiral and successfully rescued the Tyrant Bear, and the King of Alabasta died and Princess Vivi disappeared. Have a headache? Akainu couldn't help rubbing his head. During this time, all kinds of things have popped up, making him a little powerless. Boom. Sudden. A crisp knock sounded on the door. I saw the director of Marine Crime Bureau. Dark Horse walked in with a puzzled look. What's matter? Seeing the person coming, Akainu adjusted his mentality and said, has the investigation of the World Summit progressed? There is some progress. Dark Horse found a chair at random and sat down, and said meaningfully, the matter is very complicated, it involves the 5 elders, and some deep things. According to the meaning of the world government, it will be announced as Sabo of the Revolutionary Army. Cobra was assassinated, and Vivi was declared missing. Having said that, the Dark Horse also added, the world government also asked us to do our best to monitor the calls of the Revolutionary Army. Once Sabo's trace is found, they will kill without mercy. It is said that the 5 elders will do it themselves this time. Is that so? Heard about the 5 elders? Akainu's brows furrowed, and he opened his mouth to say something, but nothing came out. Since the Dark Horses have said so, it means that the world government has unified the caliber, and Marine has no other choice but to obey. There's one more thing. Dark Horse took a deep breath and said solemnly, according to the latest information collected, before Kaido of the Beasts was smashed into the underground magma, he once released ruthless words to resurrect the legendary ancestor of the sea, Lule. Jin, one of the 3 disasters, has already rushed to West Blue. How to resurrect? I haven't found out yet. What? Boom. There was a sound of smashing the table. I saw Akainu stood up from the seat in horror, with unbelievable eyes flashing on his cheeks. Of course, he also knew about Lule, who had all traces erased, especially after he took the position of the marshal. He learned a little more about some things that happened on the island of Kamya. All right now, Kaido of the Beasts is going to revive the ancestor of the sea, Lule. Isn't this intentional to cause trouble for the sea and give eye drops to Marine and the world government? What did the world government say? I do not know how long it has been. Akainu asked in a hurried tone. The world government didn't take this sentence to heart at all, thinking that it was just Kaido's incompetent rage before he died. The Dark Horse pondered for a while before continuing. The 5 elders also said that Lule could not be resurrected. Then don't worry about it. Jin, like a lost dog, can't make any waves. Hearing this sentence, Akainu shook his head and said, let the T-Dolphin go to West Blue to capture Jin. Now we Marine will focus on Wano-kuni and the Revolutionary Army. I have a hunch that this time the Revolutionary Army something must have been discovered in Mariajoy that the world government was so urgent and asked us to monitor the calls of the Revolutionary Army. Understood. The Dark Horse nodded, got up and left in a hurry. A troubled autumn. The sea will be restless again. After the dark horse left, Akainu shook his head helplessly. He knew very well that the world government must have kept a secret from Marine, and what exactly did Sabo of the Revolutionary Army see in Mariajoy, which would cause the 5 elders to make such a big fire? At the same time, the seat of the cross, one of the New World 4 emperors. Boss Buggy has become the 4 emperors, isn't it natural for me to become the vice president? Looking at the latest newspaper in his hand, Mr. 3 Gardino's eyes widened, perhaps because he was too excited and his body they all started to tremble with joy. Lie down to win. Really lie down and win. He didn't expect that he would become the emperor's deputy for no reason. Doesn't that mean that when he meets Sir Crocodile again, he can call him Shaosha? As for the record, he Mr. 3 is not bad, right? Little Garden almost wiped out the current 4 emperors' straw hat pirates. When Impel went down, he used his powerful fruit ability to restrain Magellan, who had killed 3 emperors. With these achievements, isn't it easy to be an emperor's deputy? No, I have to tell Boss Buggy. The next moment, Mr. 3 Gardino suppressed his excitement and walked towards the middle room with trembling hands. He wanted to share his inner joy and happiness with Mr. Buggy. After 3 minutes, boom, with a violent sound of opening the door, Mr. 3 Gardino didn't even knock on the door, he pushed open the room of Boss Buggy. Have nothing to say. He is now the vice president of the Cross Guild, so what's the point of being overbearing? Besides, he has already thought about it. When he sees Shaosha, he will tell him that in the future, be more disciplined and I will cover you. However, after pushing the door, Mr. 3 Gardino saw a stunned scene. I saw that the boss of Buggy, one of the 4 emperors, was being grabbed by Shaosha. At night, it seems that he is going to send Boss Buggy one last ride. Quiet. I am most afraid of the sudden quietness of the air. Mr. 3 Gardino was stunned. He had thought of many possibilities, but he never thought that he would see such an incredible scene. The boss of Buggy, one of the 4 emperors, was beaten without any strength to fight back. Did you make a mistake? For a while, Mr. 3 Gardino doesn't know what to say anymore. The joy of just becoming the vice president of the Crusaders has disappeared, and now he just wants to quit, and doesn't want to face Crocodile and Mihawk who seem to be eating people. Mr. 3, are you here? Crocodile glanced at Galdino and said jokingly, you have become the Emperor's deputy, and you seem to be in a good mood. Do not. How dare I? I admit that it was a little violent just now when I opened the door. I'll go out right away so as not to delay your business. Mr. 3 Gardino was about to cry, hurriedly opened his mouth to defend a few words, and wanted to close the door and exit. Wait a minute, Crocodile pointedly said, you just stay here and watch what we do with Buggy. Oh, Mr. 3 Gardino's body froze in place, gritted his teeth, and then took the initiative to say, Sir Crocodile, you are doing the right thing, you should repair the Buggy properly. Mr. 3, do you want to betray me? After hearing this, there were some aggrieved Buggy, and couldn't help but question. I wasn't your subordinate in the first place. Mr. 3 Gardino said without blushing. You, snapped. Just when Buggy was about to say something, Crocodile got hooked. Stop talking nonsense. Crocodile took a deep breath and said coldly, I founded the Cross Union with Hawkeye. Why did you become the boss, Buggy? Not long ago, Hawkeye was trapped at sea by Marine and had to move his base. So he invited Hawkeye to cooperate and formed an organization that Marine couldn't just sit by and watch. Because of the lack of startup capital, he and Hawkeye went to find Buggy who owed him a large sum of money. Just when Buggy was surrounded by Marine, they rescued Buggy at will, but they didn't expect that this rescued him. 4 emperors came out. I can only say sorry. Noticing the pain in his cheek, Buggy said bitterly, I'm sorry, but I don't know why. Ha ha, Hawk-eyed Mihawk showed a cold look, and said, do you want to say sorry and become the 4 emperors? Don't worry, you are the first and will be the last, Marine will not want the dead. Quote. Don't kill me. Seeing that Hawkeye was coming, Buggy screamed. Sorry, we can't do this request. After saying this, Hawkeye Mihawk slowly raised his arm, and strands of armament hockey flashed cold light on the blade of Hei Dai. And what do you think this is? Crocodile seemed displeased, took out a reward order from the Cross Guild, and sarcastically said, this is the poster designed. The C position is really eye-catching. Buggy was already a little heartbroken, and he could only bite the bullet and explain. My subordinates respect me too much, so they put my avatar in the most prominent position of the poster. When I wanted to stop it, the newspaper had already distributed to the world. Talking. There were tears in Buggy's eyes. Those of his subordinates really have more than enough success and more failures, wishing him to die sooner. Are you okay to say that? Crocodile hooked Buggy hard again. Go to hell. At this time, Hawkeye obviously didn't want to say anything more, and slammed the black sword knight in his hand, bursting out with undisguised killing intent. Things have happened. In fact, the boss of Buggy can be a puppet and attract firepower for you. But, just when Buggy had closed his eyes, Mr. 3 Gardino gritted his teeth and hurriedly said, "The Cross Guild is destined to be the key target of Marine and the world government. Boss Buggy can perfectly attract firepower and relieve your pressure." Laugh. The voice just fell. The black knife Yi stopped in midair. Immediately afterwards, Hawkeye, Mihawk and Crocodile looked at each other, and each could see the hesitation in their eyes. As Mr. 3 said, now that the Cross Guild has entered the vision of Marine and the world government, especially as they have funded multiple underground organizations through marine hunting, Marine will definitely not bear it. Get the Buggy out of the way, draw fire, and they can hide behind the scenes and take control. We'll have a meeting later. In the next instant, Hawkeye Mihawk put away the Black Knife Knight, Crocodile dropped Buggy's head, and the two of them left Buggy's room neatly. Plans have changed. They're going to make a good plan. Have I really become the 4 emperors? Have I really become the Emperor's deputy? As a result, only the dumbfounded Buggy and Mr. 3 Gardino were left in the room. Happiness really came too suddenly. Originally, Mr. 3 Gardino just tried it, but he didn't expect Crocodile and Hawkeye actually agreed. At the same time, West Blue, on a deserted island. I saw that the captain of the flame tank pirates, Capone Beige, was carrying a group of men, looking for something on the island. Lord Godfather, this is already the 80 deserted island we are looking for. At this time, on the beach of the island, Strange Gun, Werther was playing with the pistol in his hand, and said helplessly, "I can't find it, let's go meet my sister-in-law, Charlotte Chiffong." "No, we have to find the treasure left by Kaido." Capone Beige held a cigar and said firmly, "Now that Kaido and Charlotte Linlin are defeated, and the new 4 emperors have appeared, I need to find the treasure that Kaido left in West Blue. When it comes to this..." Capone Beige exhaled a puff of white smoke. As a big pirate rising step by step from West Blue, Capone Beige is also ambitious. Over the years, 100 Beasts Kaido has visited West Blue every once in a while without warning. Due to the powerful strength of 100 Beasts and Kaido, the major mafia families in West Blue can only pretend not to know, and did not dare to investigate what Kaido was doing at West Blue. Just once, when he was on Cake Island, he overheard Charlotte Linlin, who was mad with eczema, and said that Kaido had left a huge treasure in West Blue. Others might just think Charlotte Linlin's babbling, but Capone Beige's got it. Now, 100 Beasts Kaido has been defeated. Beasts pirates have also fallen apart, exist in name only. Garp Beige hurriedly led some of his men back to West Blue. He wanted to find out what the Beasts Kaido did in West Blue and whether he left a treasure in West Blue. The thought of getting the treasure of the Beasts pirates made him excited. Therefore, even if the deserted island in this sea area is turned upside down, he has to keep looking. "Lord Godfather, we dug up a golden coffin." Just at this time, an urgent voice resounded. "What?" Swish. Capone Beige frowned, showing a puzzled expression. "Nimas, wouldn't the treasure of Kaido of the Beasts, one of the 4 emperors, be a golden coffin?" 3 minutes later, Capone Beige led his subordinates around a golden coffin. If you look closely, you will also see the large characters of the ancestors of the sea engraved on the coffin. The ancestors of the sea. Looking at these large characters, the pirates of the flame tank pirates showed puzzled expressions. Is there such a number 1 person in the sea? Open the coffin. And after glancing at the coffin, Capone Beige reached out and gestured. Clang. With the sound of metal friction, the coffin board of the golden coffin was slowly opened by several pirates, revealing a wooden golem and 95 shriveled devil fruits. Ah, see this scene. The pirates of the flame tank pirates at the scene were all stunned. obviously did not expect that in the coffin was actually a real-life wooden golem covered with the banner of Beast's pirates, and some shriveled devil fruit with only a layer of skin left. Take a closer look. Wooden golem looks lifelike. But it can't change the essence of being a wood, it's just wood. Those shriveled devil fruits, at a glance, know that the energy inside has been absorbed and has been abolished. Quiet. The place fell into complete silence. For a time, the pirates of the Flame Tank Pirates didn't even dare to breathe, and were afraid that Capone Beige would anger everyone. Do not. How is this possible? How could Kaido of the Beasts bury a wooden golem in a golden coffin in this place where birds don't shit? And put so many discarded devil fruits. Quote. Capone Beige muttered to himself. The cigar in his hand had already fallen to the ground, his expression was a little dazed and unbelievable. He never imagined that what he had tried so hard to find was actually a coffin. There was no hidden treasure in it, only a wooden golem and some abandoned devil fruits. If devil fruit is not abolished, so many devil fruit can be considered a big treasure. The results of it, only this golden coffin has value. Is this what Charlotte Linlin said? Kaido left a huge treasure at West Blue. Treasure a hammer. What kind of treasure is a wooden golem? However, Capone Beige didn't know that in the hearts of Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin, Lule is really the biggest treasure. As long as Lord Lule can be resurrected and the ancestors of the sea will come to the sea again, they can do whatever they want. Whatever you do, you will never worry about it again. It must be fake, it was deliberately put here by Kaido to mislead us. After an unknown amount of time, Capone Beige clenched his fist and ordered angrily, "Find it carefully for me, even if you dig 3 feet into the ground, you will find the real treasure." Yes. After hearing this, without any hesitation, the Flame Tank Pirates split up, fearing that the angry godfather would be dissatisfied. Wooden golem. At this time, Capone Beige glanced coldly at the wooden golem lying in the coffin, showing a cruel expression. He wanted to smash this wooden golem into tens of thousands of pieces to dispel the hatred in his heart. However, just when Capone Beige was about to start, Observation Hockey seemed to sense something and looked up at the sea level in the distance. I saw in the distance on the sea. Silently, a dark shadow suddenly appeared. The speed of the shadow was very fast, as if it was flying towards this deserted island where birds don't shit. This is. Capone Beige is a little confused. Some of the pirates of the Flame Tank Pirates also noticed the abnormality, and followed the direction Capone Beige was looking at. Because this shadow seems to be flying, and the speed is still very fast. And as the shadow got closer and closer to the desert island, the outline gradually became clearer, and it was a bird creature. 1 second, 3 seconds, 20 seconds. After a minute, the whole picture of this bird creature is extremely clear. It is a toothless pterosaur. How is it possible? It's actually. In an instant, Capone Beige's eyes widened, and strands of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Tick-tock. This is the sound of cold sweat dripping. At the same moment, the pirates of the Flame Tank Pirates also showed horror. They only felt chills down their spines and panicked inside. The Beasts Pirates' big billboard, the first of the 3 great disasters, Jin, nicknamed Flame Disaster, actually came to West Blue, and more importantly, it happened to be when they dug this golden coffin. Uncomfortable. Although the Flame Calamity, Jin has not yet arrived, and has not exuded any momentum, the pirates of the Flame Tank Pirates who were present couldn't help trembling when they looked at the flying figures, and moved back subconsciously. Swish. As the fire disaster, ember flew away. The seemingly clear sky has become extremely depressed. Obviously there is only one person. But it gave Capone Beige and others a sense of heaviness and oppression that seemed to be unable to breathe smoothly. Ha ha ha, how dare you dig the treasure buried by Boss Kaido? Along with a cold laughter, Flame Calamity, Jin's body fell from the sky and landed directly in front of the golden coffin. The cheek under the mask is very ugly. If you come a step late, Lord Luolei's grave was almost dug up, so wouldn't he become a sinner? In fact, before the flame celebration, Kaido Boss seemed to have a premonition, and he specially summoned him separately, and said something about the hidden treasure in the West Blue and the hidden location, and also said that in order not to attract the attention of the world government, he would go to sea. Ancestors. Luolei was placed on a deserted island in West Blue. Only the last 5 devil fruits can be resurrected. After hearing this appalling news, Jin's head is blank. As the head of the three disasters, of course he knows something about the god of ninjas, Luolei's secret. But did not expect, Kaido boss is secretly resurrecting the legendary man, Luole. At the same time, I understand why Kaido bosses brought out some devil fruit when developing Beast's pirates. So, after leaving Wano-kuni like a lost dog, he set off towards West Blue at a very fast speed, but was chased and blocked by a team of Marines, saying that he would be caught and locked in Impel Down, which was a big waste. After a lot of work, I escaped to West Blue, but I saw such an angry scene. Is it tolerable or unbearable? Cough cough. However, the long-distance attack and Marine's obstruction made Jin, who was exhausted physically and mentally, coughed a few times, and his body trembled a few times. And it was this cough. A ray of light flashed in the eyes of Capone Beige, who was so nervous and his mentality was about to collapse. Jin, the leader of the three great disasters, seems not to be at the peak of his strength, and when he thinks of the Beast's pirates that have been annihilated, Capone Beige immediately knows that Jin should be chased and escaped to West Blue for the sake of West Blue. Blue treasure. It must be so. I didn't expect you to escape. After a few seconds, Capone Beige took a deep breath and said tentatively, "Are you here for West Blue's treasure?" Treasure. Jin glanced at Capone Beige like an idiot. If he was at his peak, he wouldn't take such small rolls into his eyes. Now, let's revive Lord Luole first. As long as Lord Luole can be resurrected, then Beast's pirates will not be finished. Thinking of this, Jin didn't bother to pay attention to Capone Beige. He reached out and took off the bag on his back, took out 5 devil fruits of different shapes, and placed them in the coffin very respectfully. Dare to underestimate me? Capone Beige's gloomy face, and then saw Jin take out 5 devil fruits, and a murderous intent quickly emerged in his eyes, taking advantage of his illness to kill him. This Jin's state is obviously wrong, and it may not be necessary to give it a try. There is little chance. However, just when Capone Beige wanted to signal his men to do it, I saw a scene that made my scalp numb. The 5 devil fruits placed in the square seemed to have absorbed water and energy, and instantly shriveled and only a layer of skin remained. Boom. This is the sound of wooden golem's heartbeat. The sound was very slight, but it made Jin's face look happy, and Capone Beige and the others looked horrified. The next moment, accompanied by a terrifying aura, the wooden golem actually began to change at a speed visible to the naked eye, and finally turned into a lifelike person, lying in a coffin. The faint air penetrated into Luolei's nose, as if he had fallen asleep. Luole opened his eyes slowly, just in time to see a white cloud in the sky. "I am back, I am back," a faint voice sounded. Luole got up slowly, stood up from the golden coffin, and stretched uncontrollably. Isn't it easy? Dog Day's system when he was dying. Only let him complete the hidden task of the system, unlock the template peak state of first Hokage Senju Hashirama to 100%, and extract the second template. He also said that he could use the energy of 100 devil fruit to revive him on the spot. As a last resort, he could only incarnate as wooden golem and wait for the arrival of the destined person at the bottom of the sea where the island of Kamya is located. Finally, let him wait until his proud subordinate Beast Kaido. After passing the last message, he fell into a deep sleep. Now that he is full of blood and resurrected, it seems that Kaido of the Beasts has not let him down, but he just doesn't know how many years it is in the sea circle calendar and what the situation in the sea is like. Thinking of this, Luole turned the withered devil fruit in the coffin into ashes. In the words of the system, it just absorbs the energy of devil fruit, and after these shriveled devil fruits are turned into ashes, they will reappear in other parts of the sea. This is, at this time, glancing at Luole, who changed from wooden golem to a living person. The pirates of the Flame Tank Pirates, headed by Capone Beige, were also stunned. After rubbing their eyes, they involuntarily showed a ghostly look. What's the situation? Wooden golem actually turned into a living person. What are you kidding? Beast's Pirates Big Kanban Jin, meet Mr. Luole. Directly in front of him, seeing the resurrected Luole, Jin, who was still in a stunned state, finally regained his senses, and half knelt on the ground. His voice was filled with excitement and respect that could not be concealed, and there was a faint cry. The Beast's pirates were almost wiped out, so Jin still hasn't recovered. He still hasn't figured out why Straw Hat Luffy explodes like crazy when facing Kaido boss, and even rubber fruit can awaken to the form of Renren fruit Udemons Nika, as if he is invincible. It's good now. Legend has it that the man who caused the sea to go blank for a year is resurrected. The beast's pirates are saved, Boss Kaido is saved, those rebels in Wano Kuni will be punished, Momonosuke, Monkey D. Luffy, Roronoa Zoro, Eustace Kid, Kira, Trafalgar Law and others will all have to pay the price in blood. Hear this voice. Lule glanced at the scene carefully and looked at the people in front of him. As a result, I found that Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin did not appear. Except for Jin, the first of the 3 disasters, nicknamed Flame Disaster, it seems that there is no one of their own. Beasts Kaido, why didn't Charlotte Linlin come? The next moment, Lule didn't even look at Capone Beige, Mo said without expression. After all, he was reborn. As former subordinates Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin, why should they lead the Beasts Pirates and BIGMOM Pirates to welcome them? By the way, first attracting Marine, and let the world government witness the miracle. It's good now, except for one Jin, or some cats and dogs. Which cadre can't stand such a test? Lord Lule, you want to avenge our Beasts Pirates? Not to mention it's okay. When he said, Flame Disaster, Jin couldn't hold back a little. His face under the mask was full of grief, and there was a ray of tears in his eyes. Not to the sad place. When I think about this time, he was like a bereaved dog, so Jin couldn't hold back the sadness in his heart. What year is it now? Hearing this sentence, Lule frowned inadvertently, with a tone of unquestionable tone in his tone, repeat everything that happened in Wano Kuni recently. Yes, Lord Lule, it is C-Circle Calendar 1525 now. Jin took a deep breath, didn't dare to hesitate, and hurriedly said, Kaido and Charlotte Linlin originally planned to lead the Beasts Pirates and BIGMOM Pirates to West Blue to resurrect you after the Fire Festival, but they were attacked by the siege of Monkey D. Luffy, Roronoa Zoro, Eustace Kid, Kira, Trafalgar Law. Quote. After 3 minutes, Jin finished explaining everything that happened in Wano Kuni with great sadness. Has it been so long? Hearing Jin's voice, Lule was stunned for a rare moment, then shook his head speechlessly. I thought it was only 10 or 20 years, but I didn't expect it to be almost 40 or 50 years. Rox died, Roger died, Whitebeard died, Kaido and Charlotte Linlin went offline, and the new 4 emperors began King's Landing on the Grand Line. More importantly, the world government actually wiped out the year when he rose, creating a blank year. There is this Kaido of the Beasts as too self-esteem, in order to get their own recognition and praise, actually want to build an anarchic pirate empire in Wano Kuni. In fact, if he was resurrected before the Fire Festival, not only the general of Wano Kuni, Momonosuke would be dead, but also Monkey D. Luffy, Roronoa Zoro, Eustace Kid, Kira, Trafalgar Law, etc. Good fruit to eat. It turned out well. Throw in myself and Charlotte Linlin. The only thing worthy of praise is that at the last minute, he knew that Jin had come to West Blue to bring him back to life, which was a blessing in a misfortune. Ding! Congratulations to the resurrection of Host, whether to integrate the supervillain in the comic, Black Robe Picket, and its adapted TV series, the template for the peak state of the motherland. Sudden, just at this time, the crisp sound of the system resounded in Lule's mind. Integrate, Lule silently ordered. He could understand why it took so many years for Kaido to bring him back to life. After all, there must be a lot of pressure to develop Beasts Pirates, resist Marine and world government, and collect devil fruit to revive him. Now that it has been resurrected, the natives who really want to do whatever they want should go online. Now that it has been resurrected, the natives who really want to do whatever they want should go online. After all, the native of the motherland in the comic, Black Robe Picket, is a giant baby who can do whatever he wants, is cruel and has a black belly and some pervert. When he is excited to ultimate, he will face the moon with a crescent moon and let it out, sometime. Maybe Dog Day's system. It is to think that he is unscrupulous in the sea. He has the potential to become a native of the motherland, so let him draw the template of the peak native of the motherland. As for the strength of the motherland, there is no doubt about it, although it is a weakened version of Superman, but super strength, super speed, super defense, flying, laser eye, perspective, super hearing, etc. are still very good. Coupled with the ability of Senju Hashirama template, think Lule is a little excited. Certainly. In general, if an ordinary person suddenly has superpowers, it is very likely that he will become more native than natives. Now, Lule, who is sitting on the template of first Hokage Senju Hashirama and the template of the Peak Motherland, just wants to be an ordinary ancestor from the sea. After a few seconds, when Lule was still in a daze, a terrifying force poured into his body as if it appeared out of thin air, transforming his body at a speed invisible to the naked eye. At this time, if someone has clairvoyance, it will be found that the sage body cells in Lule are constantly undergoing transformation. Maybe it's the strength that keeps getting stronger. A majestic and invisible energy coercion swept out from Lule's body. Such a strong fluctuation of power. Feeling the breath that made his soul tremble, Capone Beige stood there dumbfounded, and he still hasn't reacted, and he doesn't know who the resurrected person is in front of him. Only know that he seems to have opened the coffin of a remarkable person. The unintentionally released breath seems to be much stronger than Charlotte Linlin, one of the former 4 emperors. Sorry, Capone Beige really regrets it. Knowing that Kaido of the Beasts left such a treasure in West Blue. He shouldn't have thought about getting his hands on it. Now that it's alright, stealing chickens won't cost you rice, and you're going to risk your life here. Lord Godfather, why don't we retreat? A pirate from the Flame Tank Pirates swallowed cautiously and said in a terrified voice, if you don't retreat, it will be too late. Yes, another pirate from the Flame Tank Pirates wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, only to feel his whole body trembling. Gollum. While other pirates of the Flame Tank Pirates did not speak, they kept swallowing, obviously frightened. It's too difficult. They just came to find the treasure of Kaido of the Beasts. I didn't expect the treasure to be dug up, but they dug up such a resurrected monster that I don't know how long it has lived. As expected from the legend, the god of ninja Wano-kuni, this is too strong. Different from Capone Beige and others, Jin widened his small eyes, showing an excited look, looking at Lule like he was looking at God. He was just resurrected, so strong. If the firepower is full, wouldn't that destroy the sky and destroy the earth? Who can match the sea? Withdraw. Do not hesitate. Capone Beige clenched his fist and ran away without looking back. It's a pity. Just when the pirates of the Flame Tank Pirates turned their heads in trembling and wanted to escape, Lule, who had not made any movement all the time, began to flicker strangely with a crimson light in his eyes. Boom. A crisp explosion sounded. I saw a pirate from the Flame Tank Pirates being bombarded alive, blood splashing everywhere. And this is just the beginning of a trifle. Boom. What? The next moment, the sound of the body being blasted and the screams rang out. The pirates of the Flame Tank Pirates were almost powerless to resist, and they were slaughtered by the hot sight, one after another. Boom. Soon, hot sight disappears. An unrecognizable corpse appeared on the ground, and the air was filled with the pungent smell of blood and burning. How is this possible? There are red-hot eyes shooting out of your eyes. What kind of monster has the Beasts Pirates resurrected? Quote. In the end, there was only one Capone Beige left, standing there trembling in a running posture. He wanted to take a step, but found that his body was no longer obeying his commands, and his mind was blank. In less than 5 seconds, except for himself, all the pirates of the Flame Tank Pirates were dead. What is this? No, I'm leaving West Blue and never coming back. What? Capone Beige laughed madly, as if he had lost his mind, and violently urged Paramesha, the fruit of the fortified city, directly transformed into a huge castle. Using the crawler that his feet turned into, he went to the distance without looking back. The sea ran away. 1 second, 3 seconds. In about 10 seconds, the huge castle incarnated by Capone Beige has already run to the sea, and can immediately escape on a pirate ship. I didn't follow. Feeling that neither Lule nor Jin moved, Capone Beige's eyes showed a trace of fear and happiness. Pity. Fortunately, in less than a second, he suddenly dilated his pupils. I saw a tens of meters long wooden dragon suspended in midair at some point, and the huge dragon head was looking down at him. Then, before Capone Beige could react, the huge body of the wooden dragon began to emerge armament hockey, with a flick of his tail, wrapped himself around the castle he incarnated. Clap, clap, one after another crisp voice sounded. The castle, whose defensive power can be called an iron wall, had cracks, and finally all shattered. How is this possible? Capone Bedge's wide eyes were filled with disbelief. Until now, he didn't know, where did this terrifying wooden dragon emerge from, and easily broke his tank castle. He was detained alive, and who was the resurrected man? Am I the ancestor of wood style? Lule didn't even look at the dead Capone Bedge, he clapped his hands, and the wooden dragon disappeared into white smoke. Who am I? Where am I? See this scene. Jin's expression was a little stiff, and his body was frozen with cold sweat on his forehead, and he couldn't help swallowing. In less than a minute, the flame tank pirates were wiped out. From the beginning to the end, Lord Lule was very relaxed, without any fluctuations in his breath. The blink of an eye was a hot line of sight, and the tap of his hands was a wooden dragon dozens of meters long. The Capone Bedge of 80 million berry was killed in seconds. To know, even in his prime, it will take some time to deal with the flame tank pirates. But, compared to Lord Lule, it's really nothing. Good. At this time, Lule sensed his physical state and showed a very satisfied expression. Originally, he was already very strong. The Senju Hashirama template at his peak, coupled with the top-level Conqueror's Haki, the Advanced Observation Haki and Armament Haki, are not just as simple as 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 4, but 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 18, and the quantitative change has already completed the qualitative change. Now, after integrating the peak ancestor template, the qualitative change has been raised to a higher level. If you can draw the template of Superman, I'm afraid it will take off in place, right? After all, the Motherland is just a weakened version of Superman, maybe not even a bronze Superman, let alone a silver Superman, a gold Superman, a thinking Superman, and a supreme Xiao. To put it in a bad way, the Motherland and the Superman fight, basically it is 28, and the Motherland will die 8 times in 2 seconds. Perhaps the only advantage is that the people of the Motherland are not afraid of kryptonite. There is no Achilles heel. System, I want to take a look at my latest attribute panel. After a while, Luolei's eyes narrowed and he ordered silently. Ding. Host's property panel is being generated. Ding. The property panel is generated. Dash. Host. Luole. Age. 18 years old. Chakra attributes. Fire, wind, thunder, earth, water, yin, yang. Abilities. First Hokage template of Senju Hashirama Peak State Unlock Fusion 100% Marine 6 Styles Grandmaster Observation Haki Advanced Armament Haki Advanced Motherlander Template Peak State Unlock Fusion 49%. Constitution. 20,630 10 points for ordinary people. Spirit. 4,350. Strength. 32,000. One punch is about 29,860 tons. Speed. 1450, 1350 approximately 1,400 meters s. Heat rays, 112500 approximately 113,000 degrees Celsius. The number of times to extract the template, 0. Dash. Actually, so many more attributes. Taking a quick look around. Luolei's expression changed, and he couldn't help taking a breath. No way, it's really that the property panel has changed too much this time. The fusion unlocked 49% of the Motherland's template, and his ability and strength have properly achieved a super transformation. Worse yet, physique, spirit, strength, speed, all have a concrete data. First of all, the physique is more than 20,000 times that of ordinary people, which means that the density of his body has reached an astonishing level. It is appropriate to describe it as invincible, and a punch is about 29,860 10 tons of power. Think about it, it will make the scalp tingle. If it is under the blessing of more than 3 times the speed of sound, it will definitely explode in an instant. Besides, his eyes can see through, his hearing has also increased significantly, and his 5 senses have undergone a qualitative change, and his age has not increased with his death, he is still the ancestor of the sea. After getting used to it for a while, maybe I can also hear the sound of all things. Feeling his super hearing ability, Luolei's mouth curled slightly and muttered to himself. Wait a minute, it seems that a ship is coming. However, when Luole was trying to combine super hearing, super perception, and observation haki, he seemed to perceive something and showed a puzzled expression. A ship is coming towards us. The next moment, Luole glanced at Jin, who was still in a sluggish state, and said something in a low voice. Ah, Jin suddenly came back to his senses, as if thinking of something, and hurriedly said, Lord Lule, Marine. It should be Marine's warship, specially designed to deal with me. This time it's Marine's backup Admiral T. Dolphin. After saying this, Jin's tone was obviously a little suffocated and uncomfortable. As the deputy of the Beast's pirates, the first of the 3 great disasters, nicknamed Flame Disaster, why has he been so embarrassed by Marine? Well, now that the Beast's pirates are down, a backup admiral can turn him into a bereaved dog and run away at sea. Oh, got it. Lule nodded slightly, walked slowly towards the beach, and said, let's go, let's meet Marine's arrival. Yes. Jin didn't dare to say anything, so he followed. After about 8 minutes, 3 black spots gradually appeared where the sea and sky meet. At the beginning, it was just 3 black shadows, but, as the distance continued to approach, 3 Marines' top warships appeared in the sea in front of them. At this time, on the deck of the top warship, several Marines were getting ready to go. Admiral T. Dolphin, the substitute of naval headquarters, was standing at the forefront, holding a telescope, looking at the sea in the distance, when he saw Jin standing on a desert island. At that time, he couldn't help showing a smile. After so long. Finally caught up with Beast's pirates, Flame Disaster. Next is hunting time. Thinking that Jin, whose reward amount is as high as 1.39 billion berry, will be arrested and brought to justice by himself. There was a smug smile on the T. Dolphin's wretched face. In the past, because of the Beast's Kaido, Marine would not easily fight with the 4 Emperor's pirates. Now Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin have both been driven into the underground magma. It's time to show the true strength of Marine. Finally, after a few minutes, 3 Marine top warships are docked on the sea more than 300 meters away from the desert island. Jin, surrender, you are surrounded by our Marines. Jin, surrender, you are surrounded by our Marines. With a cold voice, I saw the T. Dolphin wearing the cloak of justice and the epaulets embroidered on the shoulders standing on the deck, and said fiercely, this time, no matter what cards you have, it will be difficult to fly. Clang, clang, the voice did not fall. The dozens of dart gun muzzles on the 3 Marines' top warships were all aimed at Jin. Ha ha ha. After hearing this, Jin changed from his previous seriousness, and couldn't help but burst into laughter. After leaving Wano-kuni, he was targeted by Marine. After learning that the Beast's pirates had been defeated, the T. Dolphin was like a maggot in the Tarsus, chasing after him and beating him, as if he was going to kill him. Now I dare to catch up. It seems that I really hate myself for living too long. Why are you laughing? T. Dolphin's expression changed slightly, and he said solemnly, Beast's pirates has been defeated, Wano-kuni has also changed hands, and you are the only one left in the entire Beast's pirates to flee. By the way, let me tell you another news, Marine Admiral has gone to Wano-kuni. Oh, Jin's expression remained unchanged. He shook his head with a smile, and took the initiative to change the subject. Do you know what I'm doing at West Blue? Fleeing for your life, T. Dolphin said as a matter of course. I was chased by Marine and fled to West Blue. If I guessed correctly, you should have killed those pirates, right? Having said that, T. Dolphin also pointed to the almost unrecognizable Capone Beige in the distance, as well as the corpses of some pirates from the Flame Tank Pirates. No, Jin shook his head calmly, looking at the T. Dolphin as if he were looking at a dead person. You didn't kill it. How could it be? Wait a minute. T. Dolphin pondered for a while, then turned his eyes and looked suspiciously at Lule, who was standing in front of Jin. All right. After discovering Jin, he focused his attention on Jin. He didn't even pay attention to the man with long black hair, wearing a black tight-fitting combat uniform and a red layered armor on the outside. After all, Jin is a big fish. The other one is probably some unknown person, not worth mentioning. But, hearing Jin's tone, it seemed that this little guy killed those pirates. Humph, why do you think so much? Don't you know if you try it? Accompanied by a cold snort, a cold light flashed in the eyes of the T. Dolphin, and when he stepped on it, the whole person flew out, quickly out of his legs, rolled up the vacuum, and sent out a sharp slashing wave. Tempest kick, laugh, with the cracking sound of the air. The tens of meters long white slashing wave attacked Lule with terrifying power, as if it wanted to kill him with one blow. It's a pity. In the face of such an attack, Luolei's expression was indifferent. there was no change in expression in his eyes, and he simply put his hand on top of his head. Clang! A sound of metal collision sounded. The white slashing wave hit Lule's arm fiercely, and a terrifying shock wave of collision energy erupted, sweeping out in all directions. Then, nothing more. Lule's arm didn't even have the slightest white mark. Defense is okay. Lule waved his arm and said softly, Marine is really getting weaker. Cha Dolphin was about to say something, but suddenly found that Lule's body had disappeared, relying on observation hockey, barely aware that Lule seemed to be moving towards him. Swish! The next moment, before the T-Pig could react, Lule's body appeared in front of him, and he waved his fist lightly. So fast, T-Dolphin was stunned, subconsciously waving his fist wrapped around armament hockey. Boom! A sound of bones bursting sounded. A lot of power. T-Dolphin felt his broken arm, and looked at Lule like a ghost. Is he just trying? How could this be? Immediately afterwards, his body flew upside down and slammed into the deck of a top marine warship. Perhaps it was too powerful, not only smashed through the deck, but also smashed through the bottom of the ship. T-Dolphin Vice Admiral, what happened? Why did Vice Admiral get fired back? See this scene. The Marines on the 3 marine top warships all showed extremely unbelievable expressions. What's the situation? As Marine Substitute Admiral, the T-Dolphin Vice Admiral is much stronger than the General Vice Admiral of the headquarters. Will there be a chance to take the position of Admiral in the future? The results of it, being beaten by a person whom he has never seen before is a one-off move. Completely unable to fight back. Do not. It's a one-sided complete crush. Why? In less than a second, Vice Admiral was defeated. A Marine Rear Admiral swallowed cautiously, a wisp of cold sweat appeared on his forehead inadvertently, and looked at Lule full of shock and wonder. Where did this monster come from? Jin came to West Blue. Could it be just to find him? One move to kill a Marine Substitute Admiral, I'm afraid the 4 Emperors can't do it, right? Who is this guy in front of him? In an instant, the atmosphere of confusion, doubt, panic, fear, daze, etc. spread across the 3 marine tops. I thought it was a surefire way to pursue Jin, but I didn't expect it to be home delivery. However, just at this time, Lule, who was in the air, suddenly showed a very strange smile, and a strange red light began to appear in his eyes. Tell you the truth, decades ago, I don't know how many Marines' warships were destroyed. Now that you've delivered it to your door, it's time to relive the original feeling. Laugh. The next moment, without any warning, a crimson hot sight slid across a Marine top-level warship. Laugh. A cutting sound rang out. The Marine's top-level warship, which seems to be as strong as incomparable, is like a piece of paper, and it has been cut into 2 halves. And this is just the beginning. Laugh. Laugh. A sound of cutting sounded. The other 2 Marines' top warships were also cut in half by the heat sight. Boom. As Marines' top warships were cut open by the heat of sight like tofu. Countless sea waters poured in frantically. Continually devoured 3 of Marines' top warships. What? This? How could this be? It's completely unreasonable. If you say you do it, do it. Quote. The sudden change made the Marines on the 3 top Marine warships stunned. Even now, they still haven't reacted. Why would they encounter such a pervert in West Blue and ignore Marine at all? Inside. Quick, jump into the sea. A Marine Rear Admiral panicked, issued an order and jumped into the sea first. Walk, run away. After hearing this, the rest of the Marines seemed to come to their senses and jumped off the boat one after another, not daring to stay on the deck and wait to die. Ha ha. Seeing this scene, Lule inadvertently showed the unique smile of Azu, and opened his arms in midair, saying, Lousy has just been resurrected, so he came to find something, then he will die for Lousy. Swish, swish, accompanied by 2 piercing sounds, 2 red-hot sights, carrying a temperature of more than 100,000, shot at the Marine soldiers who were fleeing frantically on the sea at a lightning-fast speed. What? Quote. Laugh, laugh, laugh. In an instant, one after another crisp fusion sound mixed with the screams of the sky resounded. Before many Marine soldiers could react, they found that their bodies had been roasted into coke by the sudden high temperature. The dead couldn't die any longer. Perhaps the temperature was too high, and the seawater in this sea area was directly boiled. Countless white smoke came out. From afar, just like frying fish in a frying pan, it makes the scalp tingle for a while. Some of the marine soldiers, who were a little bit stronger, also used moonwalk to escape as quickly as a frightened bird. But it was defeated by the hot sight. He could only watch the crimson rays swept across his body and his body melted instantly. For a while, the smell of blood and burns pervades the sea. Looking at this scene like purgatory on earth, even though Jin, who was standing by the seashore, was mentally prepared, he couldn't help but feel a tingling in his scalp and couldn't help himself. Kill, he will. But, as the head of the three disasters, looking at Mr. Lule, who was so crazy and had Azu's smile on his face, there was still some panic in his heart. Lunatic, pervert, play cards out of common sense and do whatever he wants. This is Jin's most intuitive feeling. No wonder Kaido boss said that he pervert. Lule boss is more pervert and scary than him. Wait a minute, are our three disasters also affected by Kaido boss? Boss Kaido, I finally know how your character was formed. Sure enough, if you have a boss, you must have his subordinates. Jin took a deep breath, and felt a little restless in his heart. You are all dead. After killing so many Marines, neither the world government nor naval headquarters will spare you. Jin, I'll let you go, you quickly tell him to stop, don't kill anymore, really don't kill anymore. Quote. Boom, sudden, with the sound of breaking water. I saw that the whole body of the T-Dolphin was wrapped in jet black armament hockey, and the shattered right arm was pulled, making a hoarse sound. However, T-Dolphin's words are of no use. In less than a minute, the 3 Marine top-level warships and more than 300 Marine soldiers were all buried in the sea, not even a body. How is this possible? Why is that? The T-Dolphin stepped on moonwalk and hovered in midair, his eyes were blank, his expression was extremely dejected, and he felt that the sky was about to collapse. This time chasing Jin, he thought it was foolproof, but he didn't expect that Jin didn't catch it, but Marine Corps was destroyed. In the end, the Joker was Marine himself. More seriously, who is this mysterious guy from West Blue? Why is it so powerful? Wrong, could it be the legendary? Suddenly, Cha Dolphin seemed to have thought of something, and there was a look of horror on his cheeks. If I remember correctly, when Marshal Akainu gave him an order, he seemed to say something casually. Kaido put a cruel word before being smashed into the underground magma, that is, let Jin go to West Blue to revive the legendary ancestor of the sea, Lule. At that time, Marshal Akainu also said that how could the dead be resurrected? All this is just fantasy and resentment before Kaido was defeated. To this, T-Dolphin also agrees with it very much, and doesn't take it seriously. Now it seems that everyone is wrong. What Kaido said is true. Jin came to West Blue to really resurrect the legendary ancestor of the sea who caused a blank year. If it is really resurrected. The next moment. Perhaps it was too shocking and shocking. While the T-Pig's mind was shaking, his mind became blank. Because, after becoming Marine's substitute admiral, he also has permission to read some secret documents, so he also knows some information about Lule, the legendary ancestor of the sea. But never cared about it. Looking back carefully now, the appearance of this mysterious person in front of me seems to be similar to the photo in the document. The matter is serious. If the man is really resurrected, doesn't it mean that the world government, Marine, and pirates will have another ancestor on their heads? Are you really resurrected? A few seconds later, Cha Dolphin glanced at Lule with trembling eyes, as if seeing a ghost, and said incredulously, you are not already dead, how can you be resurrected? No, it's impossible to resurrect. T-Dolphin looked a little dejected and desperate, and kept shaking his head. As a substitute for admiral, his heart had collapsed. Even if he saw Lule standing in front of him alive, he still couldn't believe it, because if Lule was really resurrected, the situation in the sea would be turned upside down. No, such a big thing happened to West Blue. I want to send the news of Lule's resurrection back to naval headquarters. Walk, swish, a cracking sound rang out. The T-Dolphin stepped on the moonwalk and flew towards the distant sea in a panic. Ember, looking at the fleeing T-Dolphin, Lule didn't bother to do anything, and said in a low voice, throw his body to the Marine base in West Blue. Clear. After hearing this, Jin showed a cruel color. Next, it's his hunting time. West Blue, C2 Marine Branch. As West Blue's largest marine base, policing West Blue in the name of absolute justice. Certainly, in general, the Marine Branch is the Four Seas Branch and the Grand Line Branch. Among them, the Four Seas Branch has the highest rank of captain, the captain of naval headquarters and the captain of the Four Seas Branch, which are 3 different levels in strength, while the Grand Line Branch is the branch directly under naval headquarters. The highest rank is Vice Admiral, and the military rank system is the same as that of naval headquarters. The same level is not downgraded. At this time, at the C2 Marine Branch base, on a huge square in the frontmost area, dozens of Marine soldiers in uniform are standing here with their heads held high. At the front of the team, there was a Vernal Lieutenant Commander wearing a justice cloak and embroidered epaulettes on his shoulders. It stands to reason that Vice Admiral should be here. Looking up at the boundless sea, Vernal Lieutenant Commander frowned and muttered to himself, "Isn't there any problem that caused the delay in arriving at the base?" All right. After Naval Headquarters, Vice Admiral and Substitute Admiral T led Marine into West Blue. Vernal Lieutenant Commander has already received news. According to the news from Naval Headquarters, at noon today, T Dolphin Vice Admiral will be at the C2 Marine Branch base for some supplies and rest. So, it's not noon yet. Vernal Lieutenant Commander gathered Marine soldiers at the base and planned to welcome Vice Admiral. After all, the 4 seas that are regarded as fish ponds by Marines and pirates. In normal times, let alone Vice Admiral, even Rear Admiral can't be seen. Now it's hard to wait for a high-ranking headquarters Vice Admiral and backup Admiral, and Vernal Lieutenant Commander has to perform well. In case of falling into the eye of Vice Admiral, then he transferred to Naval Headquarters. Is it not easy? But now it's good, it's already afternoon, there is no news from the Marine fleet led by Vice Admiral, and there is no sign of coming. Vernal Lieutenant Commander, the phone bug still can't get in touch. At this time, a Marine adjutant came over and whispered, "There seems to be no contact with Naval Headquarters either. The fleet where Vice Admiral was in seems to have disappeared after entering West Blue." What? Disappeared? Vernal Lieutenant Commander showed an unbelievable expression and blurted out, "Impossible, with the strength of the T Dolphin Vice Admiral, plus 3 Marine top-level warships, isn't it easy to hunt down a Jin like a bereaved dog? If we can't get in touch today, what Naval Headquarters means is, let's launch West Blue's Marine tomorrow to find it." The Marine adjutant added softly. Understood. Vernal Lieutenant Commander waved his hand impatiently. He didn't believe that Vice Admiral would have a problem with the West Blue fish pond. Maybe he was at war with Jin, so he didn't get in touch. Far away, the endless sea level still has no shadow of any Marine warships. 5 minutes, 30 minutes, 5 hours. As time goes by, the atmosphere of the entire C2 Marine Branch gradually began to become solemn, and many Marine soldiers showed puzzled and dazed expressions. Until now, they have not waited for the 3 Marine top warships from Naval Headquarters. Will Vice Admiral really come? It won't really be a problem, will it? At this time, Vernal Lieutenant Commander did not give the calm, and his heart began to become restless. For more than 5 hours, they still hadn't contacted the T Dolphin Vice Admiral, and there was no news from Naval Headquarters. Wait a minute, there's a big bird flying in the sky. But, just at this time, a Marine soldier with a telescope let out a cry of exclamation. What? After hearing this, Vernal Lieutenant Commander showed a stunned expression, picked up the telescope in his hand, and looked at it without hesitation. Result: I don't know if I don't see it, I was shocked when I saw it. Where is the big bird? Isn't it the first of the 3 great disasters, nicknamed Flame Disaster, the toothless pterosaur incarnated by Jin? In an instant, Vernal Lieutenant Commander's expression changed from stunned to panic and astonishment. What's the situation? T Dolphin Vice Admiral did not wait. Actually, the first of the 3 great disasters, nicknamed Flame Disaster, Jin, etc. came. Where's the T Dolphin Vice Admiral? Not. Vernal Lieutenant Commander didn't dare to think about it. Before he knew it, strands of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. He only felt his scalp tingle for a while, and a feeling of impending disaster appeared in his heart. No, this seems to be the Beast's Pirates, Fire Disaster, Jin. As the distance got closer and clearer, a Marine soldier also reacted and exclaimed in panic, "One sound. The great pirate Jin is here. The voice did not fall. The entire C2 Marine branch suddenly boiled. Almost every Marine soldier had a look of horror and disbelief on his cheeks. What are you kidding? Isn't Vice Admiral of Naval Headquarters hunting for Jin? Why did Jin come to their C2 Marine branch? With their strength, facing the big pirate, isn't Jin a one-sided crush? Ha 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 ha, are you waiting for the Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral edition? Soon, when Jin arrived at the C2 Marine branch, there was a smug smile on his face under the mask, and the audience laughed out loud. Quiet. The entire C2 Marine branch was silent. No one dared to speak. Even Vernal Lieutenant Commander stood there stiffly. This is the first time they have faced a big pirate with a bounty of up to 1.39 billion berry. The invisible sense of oppression that belongs to the big pirate makes them not dare to act rashly, nor can they raise any fighting spirit. It's boring, seeing that no Marine dared to speak, not even to breathe. Jin waved his wings a little boringly, and didn't bother to do anything to these stinky fish and rotten shrimp, so he threw down a pocket behind his back and smashed it on the C2 Marine branch. The people you were waiting for are dead. Please tell Naval Headquarters that the real battle has just begun. Swish. A cracking sound rang out. With a flick of his wings, Jin disappeared above the C2 Marine branch. Glancing at the back of Jin's departure, Vernal Lieutenant Commander breathed a sigh of relief and walked carefully to the pocket. He didn't believe that Vice Admiral would die. At first glance, this Jin is a benefit of his tongue. Run now. Must be afraid of the T-Dolphin Vice Admiral catch up. Must be so. Vernal Lieutenant Commander secretly encouraged himself, reached out and opened his pocket. Boom. The next moment, see what's in your pocket. Vernal Lieutenant Commander's eyes widened suddenly, and he immediately collapsed to the ground in fright, with only one thought in his mind, that Marine was going to riot. What? After Vernal Lieutenant Commander slumped to the ground in fright, the Marine soldiers at the base also saw what was in their pockets. They were all shocked, and their eyes widened in horror. Especially when they smelled the blood in the air, they subconsciously began to connect. Rolling back and crawling. Died. The famous Vice Admiral at Marine, T-Dolphin is dead. Thinking back to what Jin said just now. Does that mean that Vice Admiral was killed by Jin? Even with 3 Marine top warships annihilated. How is this possible? Many Marine soldiers at the scene couldn't believe what they saw. After all, with the strength of Vice Admiral and Backup Admiral, how could he be killed by Jin? Totally impossible, right? Phone bug. Bring me the phone bug. I do not know how long it has been. Vernal Lieutenant Commander reacted with hindsight, took a deep breath, suppressed the trembling in his heart, and roared wildly. With such a big thing happening in West Blue, it must be reported to Naval Headquarters. Jin, the leader of the 3 disasters, is definitely stronger than expected. Vice Admiral is definitely overshadowed. Vernal Lieutenant Commander. After a few minutes, a Marine adjutant hurried over with a phone bug. Call. Vernal Lieutenant Commander took the phone bug and dialed Naval Headquarters. New World, former Marine G1 branch. At this time, inside the Marshal's office on the top floor, Marshal Marine, Akainu, Marine Admiral Kizaru, Marine Criminal Investigation Bureau Chief, Dark Horse is having a meeting there. Now the situation in the sea has become a little more complicated. The Dark Horse looked at an intelligence document in his hand and said solemnly, Sabo, the Yan Emperor, killed the only World Summit participant of the original 20 families who founded the world government 800 years ago, Neferutari Kobu. After pulling, he became a hero all over the world. After all, for the Revolutionary Army and many civilians, the death of Neferutari Cobra is a milestone. I don't know why the 5 elders say that Sabo killed Neferutari Cobra. Hearing this sentence, Kizaru pouted and said with a headache, isn't this fueling the arrogance of the Revolutionary Army? Who knows? Dark Horse shrugged his shoulders speechlessly and added, at this time, Sabo's younger brother, the Straw Hat Luffy, became one of the 4 emperors, so that the current Yan Emperor Sabo, in a sense, has more influence than the Revolutionary Army's leader, Rebel Dragon. First make it crazy, and then let it perish. Maybe the world government wants to wipe out the Revolutionary Army. Akainu smiled coldly, and said without emotion, no matter how high the Revolutionary Army jumps now, the more tragic the death will be. Which country dares to break out a revolution will destroy which country. Perhaps, Dark Horse raised his brows and nodded silently. Correct. Kizaru pondered for a while before saying slowly, the attempted assassination of Saint Charles rose. When the trial was held in the land of the gods, the Knights of the Gods intervened, and things became deadlocked. I don't want to be involved, it's too much trouble. When it comes to this. An untroubled look was evident on Kizaru's wretched cheeks. This time at the World Summit, a lot of very troublesome things happened in Holy Land Mariajoy, which caused him to work overtime for 3 weeks. So, before the matter was finished, he walked back to naval headquarters and let Fujitora be there with the world government. Wrangling. Let Fujitora be in the Holy Land Mariajoy and we'll all stop participating. Akainu thought for a moment and said in a heavy tone, at present, Wano-kuni, the Straw Hat Pirates, the Cross Guild, the Red Hair Pirates, the Blackbeard Pirates, and the Revolutionary Army are the focus of our attention. Especially the Crusaders, who dares to turn back on our marine and want them, is an unforgivable crime. Boom. After saying this, Akainu was obviously a little angry, and slammed the table. Only Marine has always offered a bounty for pirates. The results of it. The Crusaders actually started offering a bounty to Marines, which caused many ordinary Marine soldiers to be careful about civilians when they were doing missions, so as not to be stabbed in the back. There are also some civilians who don't know what to do. Are the Revolutionary Army and pirates really good people? Baloo. However, just when Akainu finished shooting the table and was about to speak, the phone worm on the table rang in vain. Hey, Akainu frowned, picked up the phone bug, and said in a low voice, this is Naval Headquarters, I'm Marshal Sakazuki. Marshal Sakazuki. I'm Vernal Lieutenant Commander of the West BLUEC-2 Marine Branch. Vernal's trembling voice came from the other end of the phone bug. West BLUEC-2 Marine Branch. Akainu froze for a moment, as if he didn't expect a lieutenant commander from West Blue to come to him by leaps and bounds. According to regulations, shouldn't he report to the Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral who is in charge of West Blue? Marshal Sakazuki, a big event has happened in West Blue. On the other end of the phone bug, Vernal still seemed to be in a state of fright, making his tone intermittent. What a big event. Akainu suppressed the anger in his heart and asked. Anyway, he has made up his mind that no matter what happens, this unruly Vernal Lieutenant Commander can pack up and leave. Additional Vice Admiral is dead. Vernal took a deep breath and summoned the courage to report. What? Akainu, who was about to lose his temper, was stunned again. He didn't seem to understand, and said hurriedly, what did you say? Vice Admiral was killed by someone, and the murderer was the Beast's Pirates Fire Disaster Jin. Vernal's tone was full of weeping, and he said in a sullen voice, Jin also said that the real battle has just begun. Do you know what you're talking about? Akainu couldn't hold back the anger in his heart at once, and said coldly, how could a bereaved dog who escaped from Wano-kuni kill the extra, aren't you kidding? Is he really killed? Vernal increased his tone and said, now the body of Vice Admiral is still at our base, and it was sent by Jin himself. Akainu's eyes flickered with suspicion, and he clenched his left hand. The next moment, it seemed that he couldn't hold back his inner anger. Drops of magma began to drip from Akainu's fist, causing the wooden board to make a sound of being burned. Noisy. With the burning of the floor, a wisp of burnt smell gradually permeated the entire conference room. Obviously, after learning that the dolphin was dead, Marshal Marine, Akainu has had some gaffes and can't contain his power overflowing. Certainly, actually not only Marshal Marine, Akainu. At this time, Kizaru's condescending expression had solidified, and he didn't seem to have thought that the T-Dolphin would die in Jin's hands. The Dark Horse was about to drink water, but the cup shattered with force on his hand, sprinkling water on his hands and clothes. For a while, the entire conference room fell into silence. On the other end of the phone bug, after the report was over, Vernal didn't dare to say anything, and could only tremble all over, holding the phone bug carefully. Okay, I get it. I do not know how long it has been. Akainu took a deep breath and said solemnly, I will send someone to West Blue, you all get ready. The voice did not fall. Akainu hung up the phone worm neatly. Quiet, even if you hang up the phone bug. Whether it is Akainu or Kizaru, the Dark Horse still has some unacceptable You must know that over the years, Marine's high-end combat power is really few. No, more precisely, except for Zephyr who left Marine, almost none. Even Marine's former Admiral Aokiji just quit Marine. And compared to Marine, the pirates are more tragic. Roger, Whitebeard, Ace, the arrested Golden Lion, Kaido of the beasts who fell into the underground magma, Charlotte Linlin and so on. All right now, Marine was slapped in the face on Yan Zhanjin, Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral and Substitute Admiral actually smashed into West Blue, which undoubtedly made Akainu, Kizaru, and the Dark Horse unable to accept. Impossible. It didn't take long for the Dark Horse to wipe the watermarks on his palm, and said solemnly, even if you can't win with the strength of the T-Dolphin, you can't be killed by Jin. Besides, there are 3 Marines' top warships to help. Quote, it's so scary. Kizaru rubbed his head and said, it doesn't make sense. Is Jin's strength so strong? If so strong and join forces with Kaido, maybe Beast's pirates will have a chance to turn defeat into victory. There must be something strange about this matter. I will send someone to investigate it. Akainu seemed to have thought of something, and said with a heavy tone, no matter what, someone will pay the price for the death of the T-Dolphin, and Jin must pay for it with blood. Certainly. Akainu still didn't say a word. That is, the moment he learned that the T-Dolphin was killed, he thought of a very absurd possibility, that is, as the beast Kaido imagined, Jin will be the legendary ancestor of the sea. Lule was resurrected. It does not rule out the possibility of Jin hiding his strength. After all, the Lunaria are not fuel-efficient lamps either. But, no matter what the possibility is, he will send someone to investigate, and by the way, conduct an autopsy on the T-Dolphin. Therefore, he didn't want to say anything until he checked it out, lest the people be panicked, or maybe there was another secret, and everything was hard to say. Okay, that's it for today's meeting. I will let Ang Mu withdraw from Wano Kuni and die as substitute admiral. I don't want to die another admiral. After all, Wano Kuni's high-end combat power should not be underestimated. Even if I go, it may not be easy to come back alive. The next moment, Akainu waved his hand a little tiredly, and said meaningfully, the situation in the sea is becoming more and more complex and changeable, and our future tasks may be very difficult. So hard. Kizaru pouted his mouth, sighed, and walked out without looking back. I will increase the monitoring of the major pirate groups. Dark Horse slowly got up with a silent expression, and said meaningfully, I will not participate in the death of West Blue T-Dolphin. Suppress this news for the time being. Akainu hesitated for a moment, then said helplessly, at least we can't announce it until we are 100% sure that it is the T-Dolphin killed by Jin. Clear. The Dark Horse nodded and left the conference room. Call. After Dark Horse and Kizaru both left, Akainu let out a breath, and then walked slowly to the window of the conference room, looking up at the endless sea, and muttered to himself, I really have become a marshal in an incredible era, even if I let my horse come over. Well, I will fight back well with everyone. No matter who. At the same moment, Aramaki, one of the 3 Admiral Marines, after entering Wano Kuni alone. First go to the Rabbit Donor prison, and after defeating Quinn and the others of Beast's pirates with full blood, he absorbed the nutrients from them. Then, Araki, who was full of self-confidence, asked Marine to drive the warship over and took Luffy's reward to the Flower City, saying that he wanted to take off the straw hat Luffy's head by himself. Pity. Self-confidence is very high, but the reality is very slap in the face. In the case that the Straw Hat Pirates, Kid Pirates, and Heart Pirates did not do anything. Aramaki and the vassals of the Kazuki family, Yamato and Momonosuke, played a half 5.5, and were very friendly to help Momonosuke with his heat breath, which almost capsized in the gutter. You pissed me off. Once again hit by the heat, Huang Emu's face couldn't be hung up, and the moment his mind moved, he stimulated the ability of Sensen's fruit and turned into a towering tree. He wanted to be real. Really is the tiger not showing his power when he is a sick cat Admiral Aw. He wants to use the tree to penetrate the defective product of Kaido, Momonosuke, from the beginning to the end, absorbing all the nutrients. However, just when the wild animal husbandry wanted to make a move. Without any warning, countless dark clouds suddenly appeared in the sky of Wano Kuni, with wisps of black thunder and lightning intertwined. Suddenly, like a thunderstorm, black thunder and lightning fell from the sky and slammed into the towering tree incarnated by the green cow. This is. Perceiving his somewhat paralyzed body, Araki was a little stunned. He didn't expect red-hair pirates to come to the waters near Wano-kuni. Uncomfortable. Things have developed so far. In fact, the self-confidence of the wild animal husband is not much. Now the red hair comes, and the last bit of self-confidence is gone. That's it. My luxuriant fruits represent nature. Red hair represents face, so I naturally want to give red hair a face. After reluctantly finding a reason, after convincing myself, Green Bull didn't want to be ashamed. He turned into a human shape as soon as his mind moved. He stretched out his hand in the direction of Wano-kuni's coastal waters. The meaning of his expression was very simple, that is, he did not mean to fight with red-hair pirates. Immediately afterwards, Yamato, Momonosuke, and the Kazuki family retainers who were on alert were ignored, and they left Wano-kuni in a flash. First beat Marine Admiral away. See this scene. The peach-colored dragon incarnation of Momonosuke was stunned for a moment, and immediately showed an excited and happy expression. It was not easy. He repulsed Admiral of Naval Headquarters with his own strength, and next, as Wano-kuni's general, he ruled Wano-kuni with more confidence. 1. Yeah, even the Marine Admiral was repelled by us. Ha ha ha, we still have the strength to protect ourselves, it's really cool. Quote. The tense bodies of the retainers of the Kazuki family slackened, and they glanced at each other in unison, and they could see the relieved smiles in their eyes. Momonosuke is growing so fast. Let them be full of expectations and hope for the future of Wano-kuni. Call. Yamato let out a sigh of relief and collapsed to the ground. Of course she sensed the red-haired conqueror's haki, although she didn't know why the red-hair pirates would intervene, but Aramaki's evacuation from Wano-kuni was a fortune in misfortune. Foreseeable. Wano-kuni will usher in a period of peaceful development. At the same time, boss idiot, stop releasing Conqueror's haki. Your Conqueror's haki was so strong that it made the newcomer Dujin foam at the mouth and coma. Really, can you say hello in advance when Conqueror's haki breaks out in the future? Let the newcomers be a little mentally prepared. Quote. Off the coast of Wano-kuni, on the deck of the Red Force, the cadres of the red-hair pirates, sensing the red-haired Shank's unannounced release of Conqueror's haki, began to whine. Humph. However, the red-haired Shanks didn't care so much, looked up at Wano-kuni, and said coldly, "It's really despicable, an admiral of marine actually came to target the sprouts, who just changed the history of pirates, I think so very out of style." After saying this, the scene of meeting Luffy for the first time, the scene of Luffy cutting his face, the scene of breaking his arm to save Luffy, and the scene of Kazuki Oden and his childhood Momonosuke, he was screen. But there seems to be some gaps in the picture. In a trance, another giant Guanyin statue hundreds of meters high with 1,000 arms appeared in Shank's mind. Boom! Shanks patted his head violently, showing an extremely painful expression. In the past, it only appeared when I was dreaming. Recently, it seems to be appearing more and more frequently. When I was picked up on the island of Kamya, what happened? And the legendary ancestor of the sea, Lule, isn't he dead? How can you leave such a deep psychological shadow on yourself? All right, at the beginning, the redhead actually didn't know what the giant Guanyin looked like. But the more he learned, especially about the blank year, the more inconceivable he became. The giant Avalokitesvara in his mind was actually the great move of Lule, the ancestor of the sea. The only certainty, perhaps the strongest conqueror's haki awakened by him is related to the ancestor of the sea, Lule. Do not. More specifically, it is related to the Battle of Kamya. No, when you have time, you must ask Rayleigh, this time, no matter what, let him tell me the truth of everything. After a few seconds, Shanks regained his senses and muttered to himself, in the original Battle of Kamya Island, there must have been things that I didn't know about. This so-called Green Bull is really blinding Logia. Compared with the legendary Wano-kuni ninja god, the fruit is one in the sky and the other in the ground. It's just a pity, now Wano-kuni and even the entire sea, no one remembers the god of ninja. Boss, what are you muttering about there? Seeing the red-haired boss constantly muttering to himself, the cadres of red-hair pirates on the deck had some doubts. The current red-haired boss is just as spiritual split in general. Fine. Red-haired Shanks rubbed his head, picked up a pot of wine and gulped a few gulps. He didn't think about it anymore, and said freely, let's get ready to leave. What? After hearing this, the cadre of Red Hair Pirates lackey Lule took a bite of the chicken leg and said incredulously, Boss Red Hair, Luffy has become a very good pirate, shouldn't we take a look at him? The current Luffy has become one of the 4 emperors. He has grown too fast. He is indeed the person I like. Mangshita scratched his cheek, showing a very humane expression, facing Luffy just a compliment. Usopp hesitated for a moment before sighing, I'm not ready to meet Usopp yet. Kid is also in Wano Kuni. Lim Jones said in a well-dressed and fashionable manner, this kid won't be in Wano Kuni on purpose, just wait and trouble us. There is no need to go to Wano Kuni anymore. The red-haired Shanks took a sigh of relief and said in an astonishing tone, it's almost time for us to snatch that, the great secret treasure that started the era of the great pirates. What, boss idiot, have you decided yet? Are we going to snatch that legendary One Piece too? Quote. The next moment, accompanied by exclamations, the cadres of Red Hair Pirates all showed surprised expressions. Obviously, they did not expect that the red-haired boss, who has been idle all the time, would also do something to the legendary treasure. Ben Beckman took a cigar and took a sip. After exhaling a puff of white smoke, he slowly nodded at the red hair. Guru. Redhead Shanks smiled and took another gulp of wine. It's time to end. Wano Kuni, the capital of flowers. The Straw Hat Pirates, Brook, Chopper, Frankie and Kazuki Hiyori are still cheering and celebrating. Luffy, Sanji, Jinbei, Zoro, Kid, Luo and others are sitting on the grass outside the city very leisurely, enjoying this rare peaceful time. At this stage, after defeating Kaido of the Beasts and Charlotte Linlin, one of the 4 emperors, the mountain that was pressing on Wano Kuni is gone. Next, it is time for Wano Kuni to develop itself. Ha ha ha. Luffy was lying on the grass, looking up at the clear sky, and said with a chuckle, one of the 3 admirals of Marine has left. There is no chance for us to make a shot. Sanji said with a cigarette in his mouth, after the Beast's pirates were defeated, Wano Kuni still has the ability to defend himself. Next to him, Zoro grinned and said, Peach is still pretty good. He can fight Marine Admiral back and forth. I didn't expect that man to come to Wano Kuni too. Is he really a strong Haki? However, Jinbei showed a lingering expression. He had long heard that the red hair had the strongest conqueror's Haki. Quote. Hearing this sentence, Luffy half squinted his eyes, but didn't say anything. He touched his straw hat, and a nostalgic face came to his mind. I'll do Red Hair Pirates if he dares to come. At this time, the corner of Kid's mouth was slightly raised, and he said with some resentment, just to pull the red hair down from the position of the 4 emperors. I want to do it too. It's okay not to say. When he said that, Luo was also a little unhappy. Even Buggy has become a 4 emperors, and it really has some blows. Alright, after teaming up with Kid to defeat Big Mom, their bounty is exactly the same as Luffy's. The results of it, the 2 of them didn't ascend, but Buggy succeeded in ascending to become the 4 emperors. This invisibly made Luo and Kid have a sense of frustration. They beat Charlotte Linlin exhaustedly. But Buggy formed a cross-union. Come on strong. Became the Emperor of the Sea. What? The voice did not fall. Luffy stood up abruptly, showing a shocked expression, and said, what happened? Isn't Buggy an idiot? An idiot can become a 4 emperors. Luffy, don't you read newspapers? Luo picked up a newspaper in his hand and said, you better take a good look first. What? Luffy touched his straw hat a little embarrassedly, took the newspaper and read it. As for the content of the newspaper, a brand new organization, Cross Guild, appeared. Buggy's head is in the very center, with Hawkeye and Crocodile on the left and right. This idiot Buggy is so powerful. After a brief glance, Luffy couldn't help complaining, how can Lausha and Hawkeye look like Buggy's subordinates? Impossible. Zoro frowned, and hurried over. He knew how terrible Hawkeye was. How could he become Buggy's subordinate? Wasn't he joking? What exactly happened? After a few seconds, Zoro also made an incredible sound. Maybe Buggy has a way to make Crocodile and Hawkeye obedient, then he can indeed be called the 4 emperors. Kid said meaningfully. That's right. Luo nodded and added, this Guild of the Cross seems to have wanted Marine, and they still have a few brushes. Correct. When he said this, he seemed to have thought of something. Luo threw a rubbing of the historical text of the road sign to Kid and said, "You are also entitled to it. It's really boring to hide it. Is this the text of Kaido Master's signpost history?" Kid took the rubbing and said coldly, "Although you gave me the rubbing, but, out of Wano Kuni, in order to compete for One Piece, I will not be merciful. I won't show mercy either." Luo shrugged and said slowly, "When you find the man with burns, you can proceed to the last step." Quote. What? A man with burns? Quote. Listening to the conversation between Luo and Kid, Luffy showed a puzzled expression. Seeing that Luffy didn't seem to know, Luo wisely shut up, showing an expression of wanting to laugh but holding back. "Ha ha ha, Luffy, don't you know? That's better for us. Gone. I'll go to Changying Port first, ready to set sail." "It's not over yet." Kid left very quickly. "I'm leaving too." Luo smiled lightly, and a few dodged away from the grass. "What? I won't say anything if I don't say it. Anyway, I will definitely find the legendary treasure and become the Pirate King," Luffy said cursingly, and lay on the grass again, inexplicably lost in thought. The other side, deep underground in Wano Kuni, Robin was looking at a towering tree and fell into inexplicable contemplation. After the defeat of the Beast's pirates, Kazuki Sukiyaki took Robin and Luo through the glass tunnel through the seabed to the depths of Wano Kuni, where they found the third piece of historical text. Next, just find one more piece and go to Raftel. After getting the rubbing of the third historical text, Luo happily left to find Luffy and Kid, leaving only Robin and Kazuki Sukiyaki here. "Robin, let's go up." Seeing Robin's reluctance to leave, Kazuki Sukiyaki smiled and couldn't help saying, "Wano Kuni's ninja god is dead, you don't need to care so much, and there is no need to understand the blank year, history. Is that man strong?" Robin didn't care so much, but instead asked a question curiously. In fact, after a year of research into the historical gap, Robin is full of curiosity about the legendary ancestor of the sea, Lule. "Strong." Kazuki Sukiyaki hesitated for a moment, and then said with a sense of feeling, "The man can make the whole Wano Kuni covered with towering trees with a single tap of his hands, and now most of the trees in Wano Kuni are made by him using ninjutsu. Then does he know the ancient weapon Pluto sleeping deep in the ground?" Robin asked curiously. "With his strength, can't he wake up the ancient weapon Pluton?" Perhaps dismissive of Pluton, Kazuki Sukiyaki showed a bitter expression and said, "That's a man who is arrogant, unscrupulous, and can do whatever he wants. I also dared to assume the position of General Wano Kuni only after I was sure that he died. What if he's not dead yet?" The next moment, Robin said something amazing. Before Kaido fell into the underground magma, he sent Jin, one of the three plagues, to West Blue to resurrect him. "Impossible. Dead is dead, how can it be resurrected? He's definitely dead. If he hadn't died, he would have returned to Wano Kuni long ago and took out everything he had lost." Kaido was just looking for a reason for Jin to escape and leave a fire for the Beast's pirates. The voice did not fall. Kazuki Sukiyaki, who was still calm at first. He suddenly became excited, a look of horror flashed in his eyes, and he made an incoherent voice. "He is very clear. If the man really didn't die, or was resurrected by his character, the Kazuki family who stole the fruits of that man's victory must die horribly. Maybe." Robin's face was not very good and shook his head, and didn't want to say more. She also doesn't know whether the man is dead or not. If he dies and is resurrected, the consequences may be serious. Not to mention the Kazuki family. I am afraid that even the Straw Hat Pirates, Kid Pirates, and Heart Pirates will suffer. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Let's go." Robin sighed and left without looking back. How can it be resurrected? Kazuki Sukiyaki took a deep breath, suppressed the throbbing of the infighting, and followed suit with a pretense of calm. Chapter 31. At the same time, at the edge of Wano Kuni, I saw a flower growing behind Aramaki, one of the three Admiral Marines, hanging in the air with his arms crossed, overlooking the vast forest of Wano Kuni. This time he came to Wano Kuni, in addition to wanting to deal with the Straw Hat Luffy, he just wanted to see, is the wood style of Lule, the legendary god of ninjas, really that magical? That's right. After entering Marine, he also saw some dusty information. He also has some curiosity about the legendary ninja god, Lule's wood style. After all, he doesn't think his forest fruit is weaker than wood style. As we all know, The forest is the source of life that can stand side by side with the sea. So, he who eats the fruit is nature itself. Not only can you create a variety of different plants and control the growth of plants at will, turning them into the form you want. You can also turn your body into plants, including flowers that allow you to fly, and vines that rob others of nutrients and water. Result: after entering Wano-kuni, through the control and perception of the towering trees that have grown for decades through the power of the fruit, he discovered an astonishing fact that those towering trees were not only alive, but also seemed to have remnants of chakra, which is unique to ninjas. Terrified. That's kind of scary. God of Ninja, Lule has been dead for over 40 years. The trees that were randomly created in Wano-kuni at the beginning still have residual energy. How huge is the chakra ability in the body? Anyway, Aramaki thinks he can't do it. Also, with a slap of both hands, Wano-kuni can be covered by towering trees, and he is even more unable to do such a terrifying afforestation ability. Is wood style really stronger than sensen fruit? Oromu shook his head helplessly and muttered to himself, that's not necessarily true. To be honest, he really hopes to be in the same era as Lule, so that wood style and sensen fruit can compete. In the Battle of Kamya, Rox was killed by Garp and Roger together, but how did this Lule die? The next moment, Aramaki showed a puzzled expression again. It stands to reason that with Lule's vitality, he would not easy to kill, right? Have a headache. In fact, Aramaki also privately asked Garp, Sengoku, Kong, who participated in the Battle of Kamya. But, every time, these three old guys smiled bitterly, yawned and stopped talking, which made Araki's heart feel as uncomfortable as cat's claws. However, what Aramaki didn't know was, at that time, 13 top-level combat powers in the sea went to besiege Lule. However, they were suppressed by Lule. Therefore, not only Garp, Sengoku, Kong, but also the dead Roger, Whitebeard, John and others never mentioned these disgraceful and humiliating things. In addition, it involves the secret weapon of the world government. It is even more impossible to say. This also led to people who knew a little about the history of the blank year. They all knew that the ancestors of the sea were very powerful. Baloo, Baloo. Sudden, just when the wild animal husbandry was still feeling the sense, the phone bug on his body rang. Hey, Huang Mu picked up the phone bug and said, who is it? Is there something wrong? Aramaki, are you still in Wano-kuni? Akainu's depressing and irritable command voice came from the other end of the phone bug. If you are still in Wano-kuni, please evacuate for me immediately. Mr. Sakazuki. Hearing that there was something wrong with Akainu's tone, Aramaki frowned and said, Red Hair Pirates has also arrived in the waters where Wano-kuni is. To be on the safe side, I have already evacuated. Okay, that's fine. On the other end of the phone bug, Akainu breathed a sigh of relief involuntarily, and said, don't worry about Red Hair Pirates, you hurry back to Naval Headquarters. What happened? Oromu said subconsciously. The plus dies at West Blue. On the other end of the phone bug, Akainu was silent for a while, and then said in a very heavy voice, because I don't know if it was killed by Jin or not, the news was suppressed by Naval Headquarters. What? T-Pig dead. Jin of the Beast's Pirates is a bereaved dog, how could he have killed the T-Dolphin? Boom. The voice did not fall. Wild Mew was so surprised that he almost threw the phone bug in his hand. Did you make a mistake? A Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral and Substitute Admiral. He actually died in West Blue. I don't know who killed it. Is there a mistake? Needless to say, there must be something strange about this. I've already sent someone to West Blue to check. On the other end of the phone bug, Akainu took a deep breath and said coldly, once we find out, we Marine will take quick action. Understood. Aware of the seriousness of the matter, Araki nodded and said, I'll rush back to Naval Headquarters immediately. Boo, boo, it's not over yet. From the other end of the phone bug came the sound of hanging up the phone bug. A troubled autumn. Aramaki put away the phone bug and showed a helpless expression. He finally knew why Sakazuki was irritable in the first place. A Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral and Backup Admiral died in West Blue. Once it spread, the whole sea would shake. Right at this time, the new 4 emperors are in the limelight. In addition, Entei Seibo, who was in the limelight during the World Summit, also became famous throughout the sea. Foreseeable. Once the news of the T-Dolphin's death came out, it will cause a very serious blow to the prestige and momentum of Marine, and even the world government, and affect the morale of countless Marine soldiers. At the same moment, on a deserted island in the Calm Belt, Lord Lule is resurrected. He finally has the confidence. The cheeks under Jin's mask flashed with excitement, especially when he thought of the Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral who was killed by him. He couldn't help laughing secretly. This T-Dolphin is completely self-inflicted. I just don't know how Marine will react when he learns that the T-Dolphin is dead. And not far away, Lule looked at the newspapers in his hands slowly, with a smile on his cheeks. Through these days, he finally figured out the basic situation of the sea. In addition to Jin's dictation, he almost understood what happened in the sea more than 40 years after his death. Actually, similar to the original, just one more blank year of history. And some legends about the god of ninja, the ancestors of the sea known only by people with high-end combat power or status. As expected of the world government, Lule dropped the newspaper in his hand and chuckled, "Jin, get ready, let's go to Marineford." What? After hearing this, Jin, who was still smirking there, couldn't help but exclaimed. "Going to Marineford? What is this for? Doesn't Mr. Lule know that Marine has moved naval headquarters to the original Marine G1 branch of New World? If I'm not mistaken, the news of the T-Dolphin's death has been suppressed." A coldness flashed in Lule's teasing eyes, and said, "The world government has erased everything about me, then I will take it back. So, before I go to New World, first we'll give Marine another big gift. Destroy Marineford. Anyway, this resurrection only follows 3 principles, that is, Lousy can do what he wants, crescent moon is in the sky, Lousy can do what he wants, crescent moon is in the sky, or Lousy can do what he wants, crescent moon is in the sky." Accompanied by 3 unbridled voices. Lule's body was full of violent fluctuations, and an Azu-like smile flashed on his cheeks. "Have nothing to say. In the Battle of the Valley of the Gods, I was caught in the neutral position by Yimu and gave it to Yin. He really has nothing to say. After all, it's hard to strike iron. After all, his strength is not strong enough to do whatever he wants. Now that the template of the peak Senju Hashirama has been merged, and the template of the peak Motherland has been obtained, if you can't do what you want, just do what you want, and you are afraid to do things, then you might as well find a piece of tofu and kill it. Because resurrection is useless. This kind of look and smile. See this scene." Jin suppressed the throbbing in his heart and shuddered, feeling like crying in his heart. "I thought that when he was in Beast's Pirates, Kaido was moody enough, but now it seems that he is still too young. The Lule in front of him is the real Moody, and he does things completely unreasonable. That's it. Destroy Marineford and destroy it." Jin can imagine what the expressions of Marine and the world government will be after Marine's former headquarters, Marineford, is destroyed. What kind of waves will the sea make? The only bad news, the news of Lord Lule's resurrection, could not be concealed. Originally, according to Jin's plan, he wanted to quietly take Master Lule back to Wano-kuni. To Wano-kuni's Momonosuke, Yamato, Straw Hat Pirates, Kid Pirates, Heart Pirates, the retainers of the Kazuki family, etc. A huge shock. By the way, let's see if you can save Kaido-sama who fell into the underground magma. It's good now. Lord Lule doesn't seem to want to keep a low profile. Killing the T-Dolphin first, and then destroying the naval headquarters, this is a rhythm that will turn the world upside down. It's just, is Kaido-sama holding on to the magma underground? Would you like to ask Mr. Lule for instructions? Master Lule, Master Kaido will be okay. Soon, after a period of psychological struggle, Jin bit the bullet and said something. Don't worry, with the physical fitness of Kaido and Charlotte Linlin, you won't die easily in the underground magma. Hearing this sentence, Lule's mouth twitched slightly and added in a low voice, even if they die, I will find a way to revive them. Yes, Lord Lule. The cheeks under Jin's mask lit up with joy, and the last bit of worry in his heart disappeared. Ding! Congratulations to the host. Congratulations to the host. It perfectly fits the character of the motherland, and the system specially rewards 3% of the experience. Ding! I hope host will continue to work hard, follow his heart, not be bound, and do whatever he wants. At the same moment, following Lule's voice, a series of prompts sounded in Lule's mind. Listening to Lule was stunned. Did not expect. He really didn't expect. I just simply follow my heart and want to get back everything I lost. When the system is good, it directly sends warmth and rewards 3% of the experience. This is completely unexpected, right? Let the integration of the Peak Motherland template directly unlock from 49% to 52%. As unlock fusion increases, a warm current poured into Luole's body again and began to transform his body. In less than 3 minutes, Lule felt that his abilities seemed to be getting stronger again, so he gave an unfamiliar command, "System, I want to take a look at my latest attribute panel." Ding. Host's property panel is being generated. Ding. The property panel is generated. Host. Lule. Age. 17 years old. Chakra attributes. Fire, wind, thunder, earth, water, yin, yang. Abilities. First Hokage template of Senju Hashirama Peak State Unlock Fusion 100% Marine 6 Styles Grandmaster Observation Haki Advanced Armament Haki Advanced Motherlander Template Peak State Unlock Fusion 52%. Constitution. 26,630 10 points for ordinary people. Spirit. 4,750. Strength. 36,000. One punch is about 32,990 tons. Speed. 1550, 1450 approximately 1,500 meters s. Heat rays. 119500 approximately 121,000 degrees Celsius. The number of times to extract the template, 0. As expected, even if it is only unlocked and merged by 3%, there will be a big improvement in attributes such as physique, spirit, strength, and speed. I glanced at my property panel roughly. Lule smiled with satisfaction. The template of the motherland still did not disappoint him, and strived to unlock it as soon as possible. Now, time to do the right thing. Marine former headquarters, Marineford. After the headquarters was transferred to the G1 branch of New World, the status of this former headquarters dropped a lot. But it is still responsible for maintaining peace and order in the first half of the Grand Line. At this time, inside an office at the top of the fortress, Sengoku, who has taken a back seat and became Naval Headquarters Inspector General, is processing documents here. The T-Dolphin was actually killed by Jin. Looking at the latest secret call in hand. Boom. Sengoku stood up all of a sudden, his face darkened instantly, patted the table, and scolded in a low voice, "What on earth is Sakazuki doing?" This kind of news was actually suppressed, and even the world government didn't report it. Anger. Extreme anger. When he was a marshal, Marine's high-end combat power was basically not killed by pirates. Alright now, after this guy Akainu took office, a vice admiral from the headquarters and backup admiral died directly. If it spreads out, let alone Marine, it is the world government, and even the entire sea will be shaken. How could the T-Dolphin be killed by Jin? After a while, Sengoku barely suppressed the anger in his heart and muttered to himself, even if Jin's strength is at its peak, it shouldn't be able to help the T-Dolphin, at most 55. But, now he was killed. Could it be that Jin really resurrected the legendary guy in West Blue? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Sengoku shook his head, directly killing the idea in the cradle. Oh no, but, just at this time, with the sound of a knock on the door, a Marine Rear Admiral hurriedly pushed in and said in a hurried tone, "Mr. Sengoku, Jin is flying towards our marine fortress." Sengoku was stunned for a moment, then his face brightened, and he said, "I really want to do whatever I want." Naval Headquarters is investigating the death of the T-Dolphin, and he actually came to the door. It's just courting death. The next moment, almost without any hesitation, Sengoku urged the subconscious observation Haki to feel it. Result: I don't know. As soon as he felt Sengoku's eyes, there was a trace of tension and disbelief in his eyes. Result: I don't know. As soon as he felt Sengoku's eyes, there was a trace of tension and disbelief in his eyes. How is this possible? In addition to the fire disaster, Ember. Why is there such a person's breath? Sengoku's expression froze all of a sudden, even though more than 40 years had passed. But he will never forget the breath of Lule, the ancestor of the sea, and it has been deeply engraved into his soul, so he can be sure after a little perception now. That must be the breath of the ancestors of the sea, Lule. No, absolutely impossible. I personally witnessed Lule being killed by the world government's ultimate move. How could he be resurrected? Could it be that the T-Dolphin was killed by Lule? Quote. The next moment, Sengoku's body trembled for a while, and with one hand on the desk, he stood up. A rare expression of panic appeared on some old cheeks, and thoughts kept flashing in his mind. Because, in his heart, suddenly there is a bad guess. That is the fire disaster, Ember. Lule was really resurrected in West Blue, and that's why the T-Dolphin was killed. Only in this way can the cause and effect of everything be explained. Wait a minute. A few seconds later, Sengoku seemed to have thought of something, and roared, besides Jin, is there another man in a black tight-fitting combat uniform with red layered armor on the outside? What? Yes. The Marine's rear admiral was also taken aback by Sengoku's abnormal state, nodded, and said in a serious manner, we have never met that person, and there is no reward, he should be a nobody and nothing to talk about. Ruined. Boom. After hearing this, Sengoku just felt his head go black and slumped down in his chair. Really resurrected, although I don't know what method Jin used. But, it's true, and it's hitting Marineford now. Not good. Seems to be aware of the seriousness of the matter. Sengoku looked panicked, almost without any hesitation, and left his office in a flash. Only the confused Marine Rear Admiral was left. Because, even now, he still hasn't reacted, and he can't figure out why Sengoku Inspector General is showing a terrified expression, and some really don't understand. At the same moment, right in front of Marineford Fortress, swish, swish, two piercing sounds resounded. Lule and Jin's bodies were suspended in midair one after the other. This is Marineford in Marine. Jin hovered behind Lule, flapped his wings, looked at the huge fortress in front of him, and sighed inexplicably. Even if it's no longer naval headquarters, I can still feel an invisible suffocation and oppression. Sense. As one of the three plagues, Jin has never seen the world. But, there is still a sense of awe and fear in the face of Marineford, a marine super fortress. After all, this is the former naval headquarters. There have also been mega events like the Summit War that have rippled across the sea. Is it really memorable? Lule glanced at the majestic marine fortress, stretched his waist, and said indifferently, I actually destroyed Marineford, but I didn't expect that after so many years, Marine was repaired again, and it was even higher and bigger. More mighty hockey. Yes, the corners of Jin's mouth twitched slightly, and suddenly he didn't feel anything. People are more popular than dead people. Marineford is full of fear for any pirate. Even the current 4 emperors wouldn't come here easily, but, for Lord Lule, it was like going home, not only without any fear, but even a little nostalgic. Stop, what do you want to do? Jin, how dare you come to Marineford? The speed is easy to capture, otherwise don't blame us for being polite. Quote. At this time, the Marines above the fortress also found Lule and Jin suspended in midair, and they all aimed their guns and countless black cannons at Lule and Jin. Quite a kind. If you dare to take a step forward, you will be shot down. Ha ha. Lule glanced at naval headquarters indifferently, and flew forward several dozen meters in a flash. Attack! Attack! Knock him down from the sky. See this scene. A Marine's lieutenant commander seemed to be unable to bear it, and shouted loudly. No, don't do it at all. The words have not spoken. Then came the urgent voice of Sengoku. However, it's too late. The words of that lieutenant commander just fell. Hundreds of Marine soldiers on the fortress pulled the trigger in unison. Boom, 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 accompanied by a sound of breaking through the air. Countless bullets flew towards Lule like a gust of wind and rain, trying to beat him into a sieve. Clang, clang, to the astonishment of the countless Marine soldiers in the fortress, when the bullets hit Lule, it was like hitting some steel, making a metallic crashing sound, and all of them fell from the air to the ground. Sengoku, you saw that, you guys did it first, right? Lule turned his eyes and looked at Sengoku, who was rushing over, his eyes flashing red, and said indifferently, now I'm going to fight back. Do not. If you have something to say, don't do it first. After hearing this, Sengoku, who had just arrived, didn't have time to think too much, and screamed in panic. All right, although there is still some luck in my heart. But, when he really saw Lule, Sengoku couldn't help but set off a huge wave in his heart. That legendary man was really resurrected. It is good. Lule folded his arms around his chest, nodded and said, then. I won't clap my hands this time. Call. Sengoku breathed a sigh of relief. As long as Lule doesn't clap his hands and perform ninjutsu, then everything is fine. Pity. Only happy for a few seconds. Sengoku saw a scene that he will never forget. Swish. I saw a cracking sound. Luolei's eyes shot a red-hot gaze. From top to bottom at a lightning-fast speed, it bombarded Marineford's fortress fiercely. Laugh. Laugh. The next moment, with a burning sound. Subsequently, under the watchful eyes of countless people who are horrified to ultimate. The incomparably sturdy marine fortress, like paper, was cut in half by the hot gaze from top to bottom. Maybe it's too powerful. Even the town behind Marineford was divided, completely in two. The hot sight that shoots from the eyes, severing the huge Marineford in the middle with destructive force. When it came into contact with the seawater boiled in an instant, and countless white mists appeared. Shock. Extremely shocking. In an instant, the whole Marineford fell into absolute silence. All of the Marines, including the current Naval Headquarters Inspector General Sengoku, were staring blankly, with a look of extreme disbelief on their cheeks. How is this possible? Is it possible to shoot lasers in the eyes? How can such terrifying power be released? Such a terrifying ability, or what a human can have. In general, aren't the humanoid weapons of the world government able to shoot lasers? Clap la la. After being cut from the middle by the heat vision, countless seawater began to pour back madly, spreading in along the gap. See this scene. Jin couldn't help widening his eyes, and let out an exclamation. Nemas, Lord Lule just arrived at Naval Headquarters, and cut Marineford from the middle without saying a word. This is too violent, isn't it? How could he be so strong? How come? The Beast's pirates definitely don't have this number one character. Where did Jin come from? Quote. Before long, with one after another panicked uproar, Marineford's Marines responded, standing there with a look of horror, staring at Marineford with a huge crack in the middle. Maybe if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, they would never believe someone could cut Naval Headquarters in half. It's not wood style. What kind of ability is this? I don't know if it's intentional or not. Sengoku stood right on the edge of the crack. Sensing the residual temperature of the incision, nothing but horror is horror. If observation Haki didn't perceive it wrongly, that crimson laser has at least a temperature of tens of thousands of degrees Celsius. No, it is a temperature of 100,000 degrees Celsius. Is this the power that the eyes can burst? As for Luolei's act of cutting Marineford down the middle, Sengoku is not much surprised. After all, Luolei's behavior. He had already experienced it more than 40 years ago. Unscrupulous, do whatever they want, and do things not according to common sense. And judging from the current situation, that man is not only resurrected, but his abilities have become weird. Thinking of this, Sengoku's heart became more and more desperate and collapsed. 40 years ago, the 13 top fighters on the sea were all suppressed and beaten by Lule. If the world government had not used a secret weapon, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Okay now, killed and resurrected, is this still a calf? Of course, if Marine's high-end combat power is still there, it may not be without the power of the first battle, but the problem is that Marineford only has one high-end combat power, and the rest go to the G1 Naval Headquarters in New World. Things are getting bigger. Inspector Sengoku is here, don't worry. However, just at this time, when a Marine's rear admiral saw Sengoku who had reached the fortress, he immediately shuddered and made an excited sound. Inspector Sengoku will definitely arrest this guy in front of him. That's right, Inspector Sengoku is the former Marshal of Marine, isn't he? Quote. After the Marine's rear admiral spoke, the nearby Marine soldiers, despite the cold sweat on their foreheads, but the expression became firm and confident, and they all looked at Lule with cold eyes. Have nothing to say. If Garp is Marine's hero, then Sengoku is Marine's needle for the sea, standing in the living fossil of Marine, and is deeply admired and loved by countless Marines. Even if he is no longer Marine's primary division, he is just an inspector general, but, as long as he stands there, countless Marines can be filled with the confidence to win. Ah, listen to these words. A few strands of weakness appeared on Sengoku's old cheeks. I really admire him so much. The guy in front of him, at first glance, is full of blood and resurrected. Even at his peak, he was powerless, not to mention that he is no longer at his peak. Too difficult. How can you still encounter such a difficult problem when you retire? Ah, the next moment, Sengoku sighed, looked at Lule like that, and said bitterly, I didn't expect that what Kaido of the Beast said was true, and Jin brought you back to life. Ha ha. A cold look flashed in Luolei's eyes, and he said in an unquestionable tone, I want to get back what I lost over the years. You still haven't changed at all. Hearing this unbridled voice, Sengoku shook his head, hesitated for a moment, and then said slowly, can you spare these marine soldiers, they are innocent. Innocent. Lule glanced at Sengoku disdainfully, and said sarcastically, you deserve to be innocent with me. Don't you know that no snowflake is innocent during an avalanche? Everything is just the strong prey on the weak. While listening to the dialogue between Lule and Sengoku. Quiet. The whole Marineford was dead silent. The countless marine soldiers on the scene were completely dumbfounded, with unbelievable expressions on their cheeks. What's the situation? The Sengoku Inspector General, the former Marshal of Marine, was so frightened that he lost the confidence and arrogance he used to speak, only weak and humble. Say something bad. Haven't they seen such a low-pitched Sengoku? Who is that young man? Is it so scary? At this moment, the marine soldiers, who were still full of confidence, all showed trembling eyes, and even their bodies began to tremble slightly. They are not fools and idiots. Sengoku Inspector General has such a big reaction, it is not simple at first glance. Okay, since that's the case. A wisp of determination flashed in Sengoku's eyes. He took off the marine justice cloak and coat, stroked his pale hair, and said, then let me see how strong you are now. Quote. The next moment, accompanied by a terrifying aura. In the public eye, a dazzling golden light flashed on Sengoku's body, and the whole person rose against the wind, turning into a golden giant with an astonishing momentum. All to hear. After entering the Buddha form, Sengoku took a deep breath and gave a loud command, you can withdraw as far as you can. That's right. What? Are you really going to withdraw? This won't come true. Quote. Originally, after seeing Sengoku entering the form of a big Buddha, many marine soldiers had soaring confidence and were planning to enter the fighting state. The result was good. Sengoku Inspector General actually let everyone run away, which made many marine soldiers a little hesitant. Because, until now, they still don't know what the Sengoku Inspector General is afraid of. Could it be that the man is really that scary? Let them evacuate Marineford before the fight begins. Go away. Seeing marine soldiers in a hesitant state, Sengoku, who entered the form of a big Buddha, is going to go crazy. He knows the behavior of Lule, the ancestor of the sea, and he can't help but let out a foul language. Withdraw. We retreat. The voice did not fall. The marine soldiers, who were still indecisive at first, came to their senses at once, and without thinking too much, they began to fly out in all directions in a panic. Do you think they can escape? Looking at Marineford, who was in chaos, Lule showed a faint smile and said, it's just stubborn resistance. Stop being complacent. After hearing this, the giant Buddha incarnated by Sengoku roared fiercely, right now, Seraph, attack me. Swish, swish. After this sentence, two piercing sounds resounded. I saw two white-haired and dark-skinned children with black wings and flames on their wings. They flew out of a very hidden room at the top of the fortress and suspended beside Sengoku. Laugh, laugh. Two yellow lasers flashed away and bombarded Lule at an extremely fast speed. Not a human, like a pacifist. In the face of two children's attacks, Lule didn't dodge either, just suspended in midair. He didn't expect that after so many years, the world government has actually developed such a thing that even observation hockey can't perceive. Boom. A roar resounded. Lule didn't use armament hockey, so he was attacked by two seraphs, and a terrifying energy shockwave broke out, which made Marineford shake a few times. Perfect. Seeing that Lule was hit so precisely by the seraph's attack that even armament hockey couldn't use it, Sengoku, who was transformed into a giant Buddha, couldn't help clenching his fists. He was waiting for this moment. Seraph, a pacifist developed by Vegapunk with the power to replace 7 warlords of the sea. Simply put, not only can use the power of 7 warlords of the sea, but also maximize immunity to some physical attacks. It's Marine's newest secret weapon. Now, in order to deal with Lule, Sengoku had no choice but to use it, hoping to have a windfall. The result did not disappoint him. Seraph got off to a good start as soon as he made his move. How is this possible? This seems to be the wings of our Lunalia clan. That's the PX mark, these 2 kids are pacifists. Really, what exactly is the world government studying? Quote. The sudden appearance of the blazing angel made Jin fall into a state of madness, especially when he saw the black wings that were blazing. His inner anger was nowhere to be found. Many years ago, the Red Line has a kingdom of gods, while the Lunalia are known as gods. As a result, it was inhumanly exterminated by the world government. The reason is also very funny, saying that there is only one god in the sea, that is the world nobles, celestial dragons. The Lunaria people are not worthy of the title of gods. And Jin is one of the survivors. It's good now. It's not enough for the Lunaria to be exterminated. He also put the flaming black wings unique to the Lunaria tribe on the pacifist. This made Jin unable to calm down at all. Tolerate. But Jin looks like a person who does great things. Even though his anger was already full, he held back on the verge of going berserk, and turned his eyes to Lord Lule. As long as Lord Lule is fine. That shitty Seraph is not rubbish, but only to be blown up. Interesting, Seraph's attack power is not bad. Swish. A cracking sound rang out. Lule left the central area of the explosion, looked at the 2 Seraphs with interest, and said, "This pacifist, when it is not activated, even observation hockey can't perceive it. There is still something difficult." You didn't get hurt at all. Looking at Lule intact, Sengoku, who was transformed into a giant Buddha, showed a surprised expression. He knew how powerful Seraph's attack was. Without armament hockey's defense, even he would be injured. It turned out well. Lule is not injured at all. This isn't right. 40 years ago, Lule's physical defense didn't seem so pervert. However, Sengoku doesn't know. Today is not the same as it used to be. The attack of the 2 Seraphs really couldn't break Lule's defense, so there was no need to use armament hockey. How could this attack hurt me? Lule shook his head, and said disapprovingly, "I was attacked by Seraph on purpose just now. I wanted to test the strength of the attack, but the result was so disappointing that I couldn't break my defenses at all." After hearing this, Sengoku, who was transformed into a giant Buddha, was suddenly speechless. He designed and calculated for most of the day. Just want to let the secret weapon, 2 blazing angels, catch Lule by surprise. The result is good. In the end, after a long time of bells and whistles, the clown turned out to be himself. Lord Lule, this so-called Seraph should be made according to the appearance of Shichibukai. You can see that one of the Seraphs is very similar to Doflamingo, and the other is like crocodile. At this time, Jin also reacted, and after careful consideration of the square, he added, "If I guessed correctly, Marine should also have a Seraph like an eagle eye, a Seraph like an Empress, like." Quote. That's right. Now that Seraph's trump card has been revealed. Sengoku didn't hide his pinch, and interrupted Jin's words neatly, saying, "Seraph is the latest scientific research achievement of Vegapunk, with strength comparable to or even surpassing 7 warlords of the sea, and this is also the cancellation of 7 warlords of the sea. The direct cause of the sea, because they have no use value anymore." Vegapunk, after hearing this, a ray of light flashed in Luolei's eyes. 40 years ago, he had seen a guy numbered 02 calling himself Vegapunk, not a bad old man, but a young girl with a sense of the future. That time, Vegapunk wanted to cooperate with him, saying that he had seen the design of life, and wanted to study his wood style and explore the true meaning of life together, but he rejected him mercilessly. The body does not dare to reveal. Let an artificial person numbered 02 come out, but also want to cooperate, want to eat shit. In the end, the guy with the number 02 calling himself Vegapunk was arrested by the world government and started working for the world government. Now it seems, Vegapunk still has a few brushes. The blazing angel in front of me seems to be doing well, but I don't know what the quality is. Swish. The next moment, Luolei's body disappeared in place. How is it possible? Such a fast speed. Seeing Lule disappearing suddenly, Sengoku, who had transformed into a giant Buddha, immediately tensed up. When he was about to say something, he found that Lule had already pinched one of the blazing angels like Doflamingo in his hand. Attack! Seeing this, Sengoku hurriedly ordered. Swish, swish. 10 almost transparent thin silk threads flew out from the 10 fingers of the blazing angel like Doflamingo, and wrapped around Luolei's body at a speed invisible to the naked eye. Laugh, laugh. As the silk threads got closer and closer, a harsh rubbing sound sounded. However, no matter how hard you tried, Luolei's body didn't react at all, not even the slightest sign. Is this interesting? Feeling the silk thread wrapped around his body, Luole shook his head coldly, reached out and grabbed the seraph's head in his hand, with a violent force. Boom! A broken voice sounded. Seraphs like Doflamingo have their heads twisted off alive. And this is just the beginning. Boom! Boom! A few more voices rang out. The legs and hands of this blazing angel like Doflamingo were torn off alive. The quality of this stuff is really bad. Looking at the pile of delicate parts and organs in his hand, Luole threw it out and said in a low voice, "In the future, don't take out these garbage-like things, so don't take them out for shame. By the way, there's another one." The voice did not fall. Luolei's body flashed and slammed into another blazing angel. That's right, just hit it with your body. Boom. Another explosion sounded. The seraph, which was immune to any attack, was actually blown up alive, and countless parts splashed around. 1 second. 2 Marine's secret weapons, the seraphs, became parts scattered across Marineford squares. Simple, direct, violent. This is the most intuitive feeling of many Marines. The seemingly powerful seraphs are like 2 toys. They are arbitrarily pinched and exploded, and they are completely useless. For a while, the whole Marineford fell into a sluggishness. The Marine soldiers who were retreating in a panic saw Marine's secret weapon seraph appear, and there was a glimmer of hope in his eyes, and even the pace of retreat slowed down. Because they finally know what the Sengoku Inspector General wants to do. It turned out to be a plan to hide Luole, and wanted to let the blazing angel take action. Result: reality gave them a slap. That Luole first disassembled a seraph with his bare hands, and then smashed a seraph with his body. Co-author Marine's secret weapon is so vulnerable. Quick, something is wrong, speed up and evacuate. Quote. Next moment, the Marines, realizing that something was wrong with the situation. After calming down, he didn't dare to hesitate at all, and began to evacuate at a faster speed in a panic. Impossible, breaking the seraph with his body without using armament haki and conqueror's haki. Sengoku, who entered the giant Buddha form, stared at the countless pieces of parts that fell on the ground in a stunned manner. A cold sweat dripped from his forehead, and looked at Luole, who was suspended in midair, showing a bit of shock and inconceivable. What's the situation? What is going on with Luole now? Luole is very strong, he knows it, he knew it more than 40 years ago. But Luole at that time, relying on the wood style under the blessing of conqueror's haki, played his own era, and the top powerhouses of the era were overwhelmed by the suppression. So, he thought of many possibilities. I just didn't expect that Luole wood style is useless, armament haki, conqueror's haki is useless, just relying on speed and strength to dismantle a seraph apostle, and then blow up a seraph. What is this? When did Luolei's speed, strength and physical fitness become so pervert? Correct, there is also defensive power, which is also very pervert. To know, Seraph's attack power and defense power Sengoku himself knows. But, the result, just like that, the 3-5-2 is abolished. Can't figure it out. Sengoku really can't figure it out. This Luole seems to be resurrected, but he has become a little strange. The only thing that has not changed is that he can do whatever he wants. Why, are you still distracted? But, just at this time, Luolei's cold voice resounded. Not good. It's too fast for observation haki to keep up. The giant Buddha incarnated by Sengoku, like a conditioned reflex, slammed the arms covered by armament haki in front of him. In the next instant, with the blessing of 3 times the speed of sound, Luolei's fist covered by armament haki slammed the giant Buddha's arms fiercely. All right, this was intentional by Luole. He just wanted to see how much power he would have with the blessing of speed. Boom! A deafening roar resounded. What a powerful force! Feeling the monstrous power from the arm, Sengoku's expression changed, revealing a horrified look, gritted his teeth, and the golden light flashed all over the incarnation of the giant Buddha, trying to resist. But I found that there are still some drop in the bucket. Maybe it's too powerful. The ground on which Sengoku was standing cracked instantly. Immediately afterwards, the entire huge body was suddenly bombarded to the ground, and countless cracks like spider webs were centered on the giant Buddha incarnated by Sengoku, filling the entire Marineford at a speed visible to the naked eye. And the powerful aftermath caused a shocking tsunami at sea. What? The Sengoku Inspector General was blasted underground with just one blow. How is this possible? A sudden scene. The Marine soldiers who had evacuated in a hurry were frightened and lost their minds. Cold sweat broke out on their foreheads, and some of them collapsed to the ground with their legs weak. Who is this? A naval headquarters rear admiral ran very fast and had already evacuated to the sea on a warship. Seeing this scene with a telescope, he couldn't help swallowing. He only felt that his soul was trembling, and his mind was blank. Joke. Stronger than Sengoku Inspector General was punched to the ground. Can the Marines who haven't escaped from Marineford still escape? By this time, they also understood why the Sengoku Inspector General wanted them to escape. It turned out that the people who came were too strong. Even Sengoku Inspector General can only bow his head proudly. At the same moment, is acceptable. Lule nodded with satisfaction when he saw Sengoku being smashed into the ground, and he was too lazy to talk nonsense. Wood-style secret art. The birth of the tree world. Boom, boom, boom. With the constant permeation of the Chatanla, Marineford began to tremble violently, and then, as if something was about to emerge from the ground, there was a constant sound of trees rubbing against the ground. Boom. After a few seconds, under the unbelievable gazes of countless Marine soldiers, countless towering trees with intertwined roots burst out of the ground frantically, filling the entire Marineford in the blink of an eye. What are you kidding? What a terrifying ability to have the entire Marineford covered in forest. How is it possible? Isn't this the ability of the Wild Animal Husbandry Admiral? Looking at the countless towering trees, the Marine soldiers who had not had time to escape Marineford were already desperate, and their hearts were filled with endless sense of powerlessness. It was a scene in front of them that had subverted their inherent cognition. What? Sudden. A scream rang out. First saw a Marine soldier being stabbed to death by a towering tree. And this seems to be a fuse. Countless towering trees began to attack indiscriminately. Ah, ah, ah. The next moment, one after another screams sounded one after another. The entire Marineford seemed to have turned into a purgatory on Earth. Those Marine soldiers who had not had time to escape were crushed by towering trees one by one before they could react. Marine former headquarters, Marineford. The majestic Marine fortress has completely disappeared. Looking around, all the buildings on the island collapsed and shattered, replaced by countless towering trees, almost completely wiped out except for some Marine soldiers and civilians who fled to the sea. At this time, looking at Marineford destroyed by countless towering trees. On the sea, on the decks of some Marine warships that have been withdrawn ahead of schedule. The hearts of the remaining Marines and the commoners were almost sluggish and dazed, and they suddenly became dazed, as if this was something that only happened in a dream. After all, this is Marines' former headquarters, Marineford. It is a forbidden place for countless big pirates. 1 second, 10 seconds, 3 minutes, with the gradual passage of time. Until the rough sea gradually calmed down. Ah, it's over. Marineford is over, completely over. How is it possible? When did such a monster emerge from the sea? The naval headquarters is going to be angry, and so is the world government. Wait for the sanctions from naval headquarters and the world government. Accompanied by a terrified uproar. The surviving Marines and the commoners recovered in no particular order, all showing expressions of horror and disbelief, and some even slumped on the deck, soaked with sweat, giving up and running away. Joke. In the face of the ruthless man who easily defeated the Sengoku Inspector General and destroyed Marineford with a single gesture. No matter how fast Marines' warships run, there may be no escape. Even more frustrating, even now, neither do the remaining Marine soldiers and civilians know who actually did it. When did such a number one person appear in the sea, even Sengoku Inspector General was not an enemy of one and the same. Boss Lule, could it be a god? In midair, Jin smelled the bloody smell in the air. Looking at Marineford, who had become lush, his mind was blank. It seemed that he still hadn't reacted from the scene just now. With one blow, the giant Buddha incarnated by Sengoku was blasted into the ground. Then clapped both hands. The entire Marineford was covered by countless towering trees, pushing the entire island with a crushing force. The scene was extremely shocking and terrifying. Even Jin, who was already mentally prepared, was trembling with fear. Originally, after Lord Lule decided to destroy Marineford, Jin was still eager to try. After all, before the destruction, naval headquarters, there will always be a sense of accomplishment and pride. He is ready to cooperate with Lord Lule. It's good now. Lord Lule has a big move. Marineford is done, still collaborating. Collaborate with a hammer, so that Jin had an illusion. That is, Lord Lule has surpassed the category of human beings and has become a god, with the power to destroy the world. God. After hearing this, Lule shook his head calmly, glanced at Sengoku, who was deep in the ground, and said indifferently, I'm still the ancestor of the sea who did whatever he wanted, not a god. Quote. Jin showed an expression of sudden realization, and stopped talking. At the same time, Lule, what exactly do you want to do? Have you forgotten that because of your unscrupulous style of doing things you want to do, and the anger you provoked, the scene where you were besieged on Kamya Island more than 40 years ago? If you don't change your character, there will be a catastrophe one day. Boom, accompanied by an uncontrollable roar. Sengoku, who was driven into the pothole alive, felt the Marineford who had been destroyed, resisted the pain in his body, gritted his teeth, and exploded again. In an instant, the golden light, which had been very sad at first, was suddenly shaken. Immediately after, the giant Buddha incarnated by Sengoku swelled a lot again, and climbed out of the pothole with incomparable strength, bursting out with a terrifying aura, breaking hundreds of towering trees around him. Obviously, Sengoku in anger and collapse. I don't care about anything anymore, I completely liberate the power of the Buddha form, and I want to give it a shot. I'm sure I haven't forgotten. Looking at Sengoku who was crazy, Lule shrugged in disapproval, a wisp of Azu's smile flashed on his cheek, and said violently, you besieged me, and even attacked me in the end, I have nothing to say, after all, the essence of the sea is that the weak eat the strong. Now that I am resurrected, Laozi will tell you that if you dare to provoke Laozi, you will have to pay the price in blood. Laozi just does whatever he wants, so what? Quote. All right, if you have the strength, you can't do what you want, so what do you do? Then the peak Senju Hashirama template and the peak Motherland template he drew are not abolished. Go road, cowardly, and then be kidnapped by morality. Stop joking, ancestors do things without reasons. Sure enough, Sengoku, who wanted to say something at first, suddenly stopped talking, and felt that his heart was dead for a while. After the resurrection, Lule not only became stronger, but also acted more violently and unscrupulously. The original ancestor of the sea has finally returned, and the whole sea will be in the fear of being dominated by the ancestors. Destroying Marineford now may be just the beginning. You should continue to go back to the underground. The next moment, Lule's body flashed above Sengoku who had just climbed out of the pothole. With a slight grip of his right hand, Armament Haki and Conqueror's Haki quickly wrapped around his fist and slammed towards Sengoku. Danger! Sengoku, who entered the form of a giant Buddha, shrank slightly, and let out a loud roar. Armament Haki and Conqueror's Haki quickly filled the two huge arms. First, he patted the air with full firepower, and then subconsciously folded his arms, on the chest. A white fluorescent light appeared. A terrifying air shock wave erupted and Lule's fist collided suddenly. Puff! Didn't last for a second. The shock wave shot by the giant Buddha was blasted abruptly. Immediately after, a fierce bombardment hit Sengoku's golden folded arms. Boom! Lule's fist is small. Compared with the huge golden giant Buddha, it is even more insignificant. But, under the power of the motherland, Armament Haki, the wanton blessing of Conqueror's Haki. The power that was even more terrifying than the blow just now burst out, making Sengoku, who was transformed into a giant Buddha, feel like he was not facing a person but an extraterrestrial meteor. How could it be possible? The golden giant Buddha incarnated by Sengoku let out an incompetent fury, but found that it had no effect. Clap, clap. This is the sound of cracks appearing in the arms of the golden giant Buddha. Not good. What? The giant Buddha incarnated by Sengoku screamed. His arms were shattered by the bombardment, and a powerful force poured out. The ground at the foot of the golden giant Buddha began to sag. In less than 3 seconds, the golden giant Buddha incarnated by Sengoku was crushed into the ground again. Quiet, with the crazy explosion of Sengoku, once again crushed and slammed into the ground. The aftermath of the powerful force poured over Marineford once again, causing the already crumbling island to gradually begin to crumble, and once again set off a series of huge waves. In the face of such a terrifying picture, the remaining Marines and civilians on the Marine warship have fallen into absolute sinking and sluggishness. No one speaks, for having fallen into terrifying despair. Stronger than Marines Ding Shenzhen, Marines former Marshal, Sengoku Inspector General, after bursting out with all his strength, are not the opponents of this guy who suddenly appeared in front of him. How terrible is this? To know, this is Sengoku, famous all over the sea. Although old, strength has declined, but no one dares to underestimate his status in the sea. Result: being blasted into the ground without a fight back. Isn't the gap a bit too big? Ended. Jin suppressed the exclamation in his heart, as if thinking of something. A look of anticipation appeared on his cheeks. Have nothing to say. Even as strong as Sengoku Inspector General was defeated like a smash. Then as long as Mr. Lule returns to Wano-kuni, the Momonosuke, the retainers of the Kazuki family, the Elephant Master, the Straw Hat Pirates, the Kid Pirates, and the Heart Pirates will all have to feed lousy. Especially that Straw Hat Luffy. Also awakened Renren Fruit, you demons, Nika form. Still wash it, waiting to be blasted by Lord Lule. Boss Kaido, if you don't die, just wait. Once Lord Lule and I return to Wano-kuni, we will avenge you and save you from the magma. If you die, Lord Lule will also resurrect you. Thinking of this, Jin was full of anticipation and confidence in the future, and madly shouted in his heart, Lord Lule YYDS. Sengoku, Mr. Sengoku. What should I do? What should I do? At the same time, a naval headquarters rear admiral was almost completely paralyzed with fright, and fell on the deck with his eyes blank. He no longer had any thoughts in his mind, only the fear of Lule. Wait a minute. But, just at this time, a dull-looking Marine seemed to notice the sound, and shouted excitedly, we haven't lost yet. Sengoku Inspector General stood up again. Veterans don't die, they just fade away. The Sengoku Inspector General hasn't conceded defeat yet, and continues to fight. Great. Sengoku Inspector General, come on, we must defeat the pirates and maintain the justice and dignity of our Marine. Quote. And this is like a fuse. The Marine and the civilians on the deck, who were already in despair, were instantly excited, and they all involuntarily made a series of excited voices, encouraging Sengoku Inspector General from the air. Have nothing to say. As long as Sengoku Inspector General can stand up, there is no losing. Veterans don't die. Maybe a miracle will happen. And above the ruins of Marineford, Sengoku, who entered the state of the giant Buddha, wondered if he was not afraid of death. Already tremblingly crawled out of the pothole, and then stood up with his head held high. Looking around, it seems to be full of momentum, but in fact, the golden Buddha has blood on his body, which is very miserable, as if the wind can blow it down. PFF'd. Ha 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 ha. Sengoku, who stood up again, spit out a few mouthfuls of blood with a smile. Lost. He lost miserably. This Lule is more powerful and pervert than more than 40 years ago, but he is no longer at his peak. Now after the resurrection, the first thing is to get revenge on Marine. Sengoku can only imagine the revenge Marine will face next. But, he was helpless, he could only stand up and maintain his last bit of dignity. You don't do what you want. I, Sengoku, will not yield. Even death will not yield to evil. Even if it is death, I will die standing up. Alive. Lule stared at the proud and immortal Sengoku with a faint smile, and said, as expected of Marine's former marshal, his vitality is quite tenacious. Justice is never absent. After hearing this, Although his body was on the verge of collapse, Sengoku, who had transformed into a giant Buddha, reluctantly raised his arms and let out his own cry, "Marine will never yield to evil. Lule, you will one day." Boom. It's not over yet. A cracking sound resounded. Sengoku's huge Buddha body had already flown out and hit the ground hundreds of meters away. Perhaps it was severely injured. Sengoku recovered his body and lay there with blood. "You talk too much." After blowing up Sengoku with a single blow, Lule waved his fist and said something lightly. PFF. The voice did not fall. Sengoku spat out a mouthful of blood, and stood up staggeringly. "No, Sengoku Inspector General, admit it. Stop standing up, that person is a lunatic and a demon." Seeing such a tragic Sengoku, the remaining Marines and civilians on the Marine warship felt like they had broken a bucket of cold water, their hearts tightened, and some even closed their eyes. What veterans don't die? Sengoku Inspector General was purely beaten and crushed one-sidedly, so they couldn't bear to watch it. "Lule, you laugh." A red-hot sight cut through the air. Before Sengoku had finished speaking, he flew towards Sengoku at a speed that could not cover his ears. Sengoku's pupils contracted violently, trying to push armament hockey, but found that his body was severely injured and it was too late. "Are you going to die?" "Exactly. Freed. Ancestors resurrected. I am afraid that the sea will set off a stormy wave again. But these are none of my business. Garp, old boy. I'm going one step ahead." Boom. A roar resounded. Sengoku's head was blown alive by the heat vision, and the red and white things were scattered all over the place. "Does Lousy dare not kill you?" After killing Sengoku, Lule showed a disdainful smile. "This Sengoku likes to be ignorant. If you don't want to be decent, then Lousy will make you decent. You don't want to be decent. That Lousy will make you decent. Besides, for so many years, you've lived enough, and you've had enough to die." "Died? How is it possible? Sengoku Inspector General is dead." It's over, the Sengoku Inspector General is killed." Quote. The next moment, accompanied by a series of exclamations. Those Marines and civilians on the deck of the warship, although their hearts were already occupied by fear, still showed expressions of horror and disbelief. They never thought that Sengoku Inspector General would be killed by a headshot, and they never thought that the guy named Lule would do it when he said he would do it, and he had no intention of showing mercy at all. To know, this is Marine's former elemental master, the current Inspector General. Isn't this Lule not afraid of being retaliated and attacked by Marine and listed on the must-kill list by the world government? Can't figure it out. They really have something to think about. Quote. And the most calm person may be Jin. He knew that Lord Lule did whatever he wanted. This Sengoku was shameless, and it was quite normal for him to be killed. In a word, Lule does things without reasons. "Jin, get ready to go." Lule didn't even look at Sengoku, who was already dead, and said in a low voice, "I've already shown my sword, so let's see how Marine and the world government deal with it." "Understood." Jin hesitated for a moment, then glanced at the Marine warships on the sea in the distance, and whispered, "Lord Lule, do you want to get rid of the remaining Marines and civilians?" "Ha ha." Lule shook his head and said disapprovingly, "If you are too lazy to do it, let them be witnesses to the new history of the sea. You can come back." After saying this, Lule clapped his hands lightly. Swish. The next moment, under Jin's incredible gaze, I saw a few people exactly like Lord Lule emerge from the ruins of Marineford, and a few dodging figures appeared next to Lord Lule and took out a few scrolls. Puff, puff. After Lule took the scroll, those wood clones turned into smoke and disappeared. This is... Jin widened his eyes and muttered to himself. It seems to be a clone technique, but... how is it more clever and powerful than the clone technique of those ninjas in Wano Kuni? Those coquettish things are also worthy of being compared with me. Putting away the seal scroll, Luolei's eyes moved, showing a disdainful expression. At first, during the unification of Wano Kuni, he played against the ninjas in Wano Kuni, but found that they were all garbage, and all kinds of ninjutsu were like being castrated. As for these seal scrolls, of course, some of the treasures and devil fruit that Marine left in Marineford were sealed. Without any exaggeration, this trip to Marineford, he can be said to have won a lot of money. When there is time, let the system absorb the devil fruit energy collected in naval headquarters, and unlock and integrate some peak motherland templates. Lule's mouth was slightly raised, and he silently made a decision. As long as he gets stronger and stronger, then he will not be afraid of anything, and he can do whatever he wants. Swish. Thinking of this, Lule's body flashed and flew in the direction of Sabayati Archipelago. Are you going to New World? Jin looked happy, and with a wave of his wings, he hurriedly followed. He is very clear. Destroy Marineford and kill old Sengoku. It's just the beginning, the real battle is yet to come. Call. Have they gone? We don't have to die, we're saved. Quote. After Lule and Jin left, those on the deck were tense and despairing to the extent of ultimate marine and civilians. All of them breathed a sigh of relief involuntarily, and some even showed the joy of the rest of their lives. Not easy. They are really not easy. Originally, after the death of Sengoku Inspector General, they all thought they were doomed. But did not expect. Lule and Jin had no intention of doing anything at all, as if they were not worth doing at all. Just thinking of the ruined Marineford and the dead Sengoku Inspector General, many Marine soldiers and civilians still showed a gloomy look. Marine was madly beaten in the face, but they managed to survive. No matter what they thought, they felt a little uncomfortable. Wait a minute. Quick, get the phone bugs. Suddenly, a naval headquarters rear admiral suddenly recovered from his decadent state, wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, and said urgently, "Such a big thing happened in Marineford, we have to report to naval headquarters immediately." Quote. Nemas. Just now, I had severe mood swings, felt uneasy in my heart, my mind was blank, and I forgot even the most important things. Right. Quick, get the phone bug. The voice did not fall. Several Marine lieutenant commanders also responded. Coming. After 3 minutes, a Marine soldier hurried over with a phone bug. Call. The rear admiral from naval headquarters took the phone bug, took a deep breath, suppressed the throbbing in his heart, and resolutely dialed the phone bug. The other side. New World. Former Marine G1 branch. At this time, inside the marshal's office on the top floor, Marine elementalist Akainu is there working on the papers in hand. With the birth of the new 4 emperors, the fame of Yan Emperor Sabo, and the death of Marine's substitute Admiral T. Dolphin, who was suppressed by Marine, Akainu has been busy these days, and he has been working for 5 consecutive days. Call. I do not know how long it has been. Only then did Akainu put down a document in his hand, and muttered to himself, I hope Kizaru can investigate some useful information in West Blue. Even though Kizaru didn't want to go to West Blue, Akainu sent him, who called him the fastest. Just find out. Then Marine will act with thunder. Thinking of this, Akainu also stretched, ready to leave work. Bolu. However, just when Akainu was about to pack up and was about to open the door and leave the office, the phone worm on the desk rang in vain. Hey, hear the sound of the phone bug. Akainu's expression suddenly became a little uncomfortable, but he still walked to the desk and picked up the phone bug. This is Naval Headquarters, I'm Marshal Sakazuki. Mr. Sakazuki, something is bad. From the other end of the phone bug came the urgent and trembling voice of the Naval Headquarters Rear Admiral. Marineford was attacked, Sengoku Inspector General was killed, and Marineford was destroyed. What did you say? Akainu, who was still careless at first, almost threw the phone bug in his hand. What's the situation? Marineford was destroyed. Even Sengoku Inspector General was killed. Did you make a mistake? What did you say? Akainu, who was still careless at first, almost threw the phone bug in his hand. What's the situation? Marineford was destroyed. Even Sengoku Inspector General was killed. Did you make a mistake? You can't joke like this. Anyway, Akainu can't understand. Who would be so bold in the sea to destroy Marineford and kill Sengoku, the former Marine's marshal? Even Yan Emperor Sabo, 4 emperors Luffy, Blackbeard, red-haired Shanks, Buggy, Revolutionary Army would not be so ignorant. Because, if you do this, undoubtedly, it is a direct declaration of a full-scale war with Marine and a tit-for-tat confrontation with the world government, which will be hit by Marine in all aspects. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. So much so that Akainu, who was already angry, roared subconsciously, whoever you are, dare to make such a joke, wait for the military law to deal with it. Mr. Sakazuki, is this true? On the other end of the phone bug. The Marine Rear Admiral didn't even dare to breathe, and said terribly, "Now Naval Headquarters has become a ruin, covered by countless towering trees. Sengoku Inspector General was killed by that man named Lule, died mercilessly in a headshot." "What the hell are you talking about?" Akainu feels like he's going crazy. Does the guy on the phone bug really think he's an idiot and a fool? Would you believe such low-level lies and deceit? If Marineford is destroyed, if Sengoku is killed, Sakazuki will write his name upside down and run naked in the sea. Real. What I'm saying is true. Marineford was literally destroyed. Not only was the Sengoku Inspector General dead, many Marine soldiers and civilians were killed by countless towering trees. It was Jin from the Beast's Pirates, who brought that man named Lule to Marineford. It seems that General Sengoku Inspector and Lule knew each other, and they said they fought over 40 years ago. That man was very violent and ruthless. The Marine Rear Admiral on the other end of the phone was also a little flustered and spoke incoherently. Wait a minute. Akainu, who wanted to get angry at first, was stunned, and after running a circle in his mind, he said subconsciously, "You mean that Jin went to Marineford and brought a man named Lule with whom Sengoku met more than 40 years ago? Lule fought, and countless towering trees killed many Marine soldiers and civilians." Yes. Seeing that Marshal Akainu finally believed in himself. On the other end of the phone bug, the Naval Headquarters Rear Admiral nodded hurriedly and said, "That guy named Lule is extremely terrifying. Arrogance to ultimate." This. How so? Could it be that the legendary ancestor of the sea, Lule, who created a blank year in history, has really been resurrected? Quote. Akainu was completely mad, and he couldn't keep his peace any longer, especially when he thought of the death of the T-Dolphin in West Blue. Everything seemed to be explained clearly. With the same name, Jin is by his side, using trees to attack. He met Sengoku 40 years ago, and he can kill Sengoku. Various conditions point to Lule, who has been dead for more than 40 years. Do not. I'm going to see Marineford. Still can't believe it. Akainu tried his best to suppress the anger and shock in his heart, but found that he couldn't hold back at all. Baloo. So, on the other end of the phone bug. Before the Naval Headquarters Rear Admiral finished speaking, the phone worm in his hand heard the sound of being hung up. As for the reason, of course it was the Marshal. Akainu had lost his temper, and the phone bug in his hand was instantly swallowed by the magma and turned to ashes. Next moment, no sign. A terrifying heat swept out in all directions without restraint, covering the entire Marine G1 headquarters. What's the situation? Is this the breath of Marshal Sakazuki? What happened to Sakazuki Yuenshi? How could such a terrifying heat wave erupt? Quote. In the next instant, the countless Marines in the entire Marine G1 headquarters showed extremely horrified expressions, and all looked in the direction of Marshal Sakazuki's office. Obviously didn't figure it out. What is it that actually caused the outburst of Marshal Marine Sakazuki? Marines' high-end combat power such as Dark Horse, Garp, Aramaki, Momoshiki, etc., got up and walked out of the office one after another, with extremely unbelievable eyes flashing in their eyes. Because, under the perception of their observation haki, Marshal Sakazuki was already on the verge of erupting, and the fluctuations in his body's power were extremely terrifying and violent, and it seemed to be about to explode. Garp, Wild Animal Husbandry, Dark Horse, Heat Tingling, go to Marineford with me. Boom. Sudden. Just at this time, the sound of an office door being slammed rang out. Akainu's body flashed, and he appeared in the sky above Marine G1 headquarters, and gave an order with no emotion. Swish. After saying this, without waiting for Garp and the others to react, they flew in the direction of Marineford. Could it be, something happened to Marineford? The Dark Horse looked stunned and said something subconsciously. Could it be that some pirates dared to attack Marineford? Crane shook his head and said in a heavy tone. Because, I don't know what happened. There was an ominous premonition in her heart. Impossible. Amur Mew shrugged cursingly, and said, Marineford is the symbol of our marine. Who dares to attack after eating a bare-hearted leopard? Does he really think that our marine is vegetarian? Let's go and have a look. Garp was rarely a fool, put down the senbei in his hand, suppressed the ominous premonition in his heart, and followed in a flash. No way. It's just that Akainu's state is too irritable. Obviously something happened to Marineford. He wanted to ask, but found that Akainu had gone, and now he had to go to Marineford to see it in person. I just hope that Sengoku is a good friend, and nothing happens. The first half of the Grand Line. Marineford. After what happened that Marineford was destroyed and the Sengoku Inspector General was killed. The remaining Marines and civilians organized and began to protect the battlefield. Some Marine soldiers began to patrol the surrounding waters. Once a pirate appeared, they would either expel, capture, or kill. It's about Marines' face and dignity. Anyway, before the high-end combat power of naval headquarters comes. What happened in Marineford must not be passed on. This also led to the fact that no pirates dared to stay in the waters around Marineford. Some pirates wanted to see why there were tsunamis and roars in the waters where Marineford was located. But, facing the aggressive patrolling Marine, he suppressed his curiosity and left. After all, this is the former naval headquarters. It's not something that the little pirates in the first half of the Grand Line can provoke. Finally, after a day, Sakazuki, Garp, Crane, Aramaki, and Dark Horse rushed to Marineford. Result: I was stunned by the scene in front of me. Except for Sakazuki, who had a little mental preparation, Garp, Crane, Aramaki, and Dark Horse all rubbed their eyes subconsciously, fearing that they were wrong. What's the situation? How Marineford became a forest? All kinds of buildings have become ruins, and no one is intact. In an instant, Garp, Crane, Wild Shepherd, and Dark Horse were all shocked and couldn't keep calm anymore. At this time, they finally knew why Marshal Sakazuki was so arrogant and out of control. Anyone who encounters this kind of situation is afraid that he will lose control, right? It's just hitting Marine in the face, hitting them in the face of Marine's high-end combat power, and trampling Marine's dignity and glory underfoot. What exactly happened? How did Marineford become like this? No, Sengoku. Sengoku's breath seems to be. ... Boom. The next moment, Garp, Crane, Wild Shepherd, and Dark Horse also burst out with extremely terrifying aura fluctuations, apparently also stimulated by Marineford's encounter. Among them Garp and Crane. It was even more panicked and accelerated, and soon reached the place where Sengoku was killed. Seemingly aware of Garp, Staff Officer Crane and others coming, the headless corpse of Sengoku, who was still standing on the ground, fell to the ground without any warning. Sengoku. Garp raised his head and roared angrily. His body hugged Sengoku's bloody Linlin's body in a flash, his expression extremely sad. It never occurred to him. Marineford was destroyed. Sengoku actually died, or was killed by a headshot. Seems to be too angry. The hideous Garp lost control. A terrifying aura swept out of Garp's body uncontrollably. Perhaps it was too strong. It shattered the clouds in midair, leaving many Marines in this sea area unable to breathe. They could only stand on the spot with a horrified expression. Going to faint. No doubt. This is Conqueror's hockey. Why is this happening? Staff Officer, he also lost his former wisdom, his body trembling, and he took a few steps back, and he just stood there in despair. Sengoku is dead. How could he possibly die? But the facts are in front of him, and the Crane has to believe it even if he doesn't believe it. That former Marine Master, his good friend, just died in Marineford. Garp, calm down. Seeing Garp getting out of control, the Dark Horse clenched his fists, took a deep breath, and said, "Now is not the time to be sad. The first task is to identify the murderer so that we can take action." Yes, it's time to find the murderer. Upon hearing this, Garp woke up suddenly from his grief, hugged Sengoku's body, and said with monstrous murderous intent, "Whoever it is, it will pay the price in blood. It won't be right." But, just at this time. But it was the unbelievable voice of the wild animal husbandry. Because, after using the ability of sense and fruit, he could not control the towering tree growing in Marineford, and it seemed that there was a vigorous force repelling the power of sense and fruit. Wait a minute. The power of these towering trees seems to be exactly the same as the forest in Wano-kuni. No way. In the next instant, Wild Mew, who seemed to have thought of something, widened his eyes, and a look of uncertainty flashed on his cheeks. If he guessed correctly, it is the power of Lule, the legendary ancestor of the sea, but hasn't he been dead for more than 40 years? How could he still be alive? Also attacked Marineford, killing the Sengoku Inspector General. Thinking of this, Aramaki frowned and looked at Marshal Sakazuki. If I'm not wrong, Lule, who died more than 40 years ago, should have been resurrected by Jin. I wasn't sure at first, but now it's completely certain. Aware of Aramaki's gaze, Akainu took a deep breath after scanning the circle, and then said astonishingly, according to the information collected, that Lule killed the T-Dolphin in West Blue before arriving at Marineford. Quote. What? Did you make a mistake? The legendary ancestor of the sea, Lule, has been resurrected. The voice did not fall. The Dark Horse and the staff of the Crane made an exclamation in no particular order. Apparently, they did not expect that the person who killed Sengoku in this attack on Marineford was actually a person who had been dead for more than 40 years. It was simply incredible. It's him, Marine and the pirates' common enemy, Lule. At this time, Garp slowly put Sengoku's body on the ground, and said in despair, actually, the moment I saw these towering trees, I knew who moved the hand, plus the residual breath, even more sure. I just didn't expect that the man was actually resurrected, and he also had some other means of attack. Speaking of which, Garp showed a rare expression of bitterness and powerlessness, and just slumped on the ground. It was the first time in his life that he had encountered such a powerless thing. He was so angry just now that he lost his mind and confidently said that Lule would repay the debt with blood. But, after he calmed down, he realized that he seemed to have some fantastic ideas. At his peak, he couldn't beat Lule. Now that he's old, can he still beat Lule? More importantly, judging from Sengoku's wounds and the traces of the battlefield, it seems that Sengoku was forcibly blasted into the ground, and his head was also shot by some terrifying laser-like thing. No doubt that Lule is not only resurrected, but also more pervert. Silence. The atmosphere of the scene is extremely dignified. After confirming that the legendary ancestor of the sea, Lule, was really resurrected. Whether it was Marine Elemental Division, Sakazuki, Marine Hero, Garp, or even the director of Marine Criminal Investigation Bureau, Dark Horse, Marine Admiral, Aramaki, and General Staff Officer, Crane, they all fell into silence. Obviously, it was all about being resurrected by Lule, which shocked me. In Martial Marine, Sakazuki's fist is clenched and clenched. No way. This time Lule slapped his face and completely ignored him, the Marine's marshal. T-Dolphin was dead, Sengoku was dead, Marineford was destroyed. If the heavyweight news spread out, he couldn't believe how the sea would shake. The world government will definitely take the opportunity to attack. Too difficult. It is really difficult for him to be a Marine Marshal. It feels like all the unfortunate things have come swarming during this period of time. Why is that? Garp also slumped to the ground in a slump. By this time, only then did he realize that the title of his Marine hero was just a piece of shit, and it was useless at all. Seeing this scene, a naval headquarters rear admiral not far away had strands of cold sweat on his forehead. He wanted to report specific information, but his body froze in place, unable to move. After all, Sakazuki, Garp, Staff Crane, Aramaki, the terrifying aura emanating from the Dark Horse. Like a precursor to a volcanic eruption. It made him tremble a little bit. Tell me about the specific situation at that time. I don't know how long. Akainu took a deep breath, suppressed the infighting shock, glanced at the naval headquarters rear admiral, and ordered, tell me what happened after Lule arrived at naval headquarters, word for word. Quote. Marshal Sakazuki, we recorded it with the phone bug on the warship. After hearing this, the rear admiral from naval headquarters was shocked and didn't dare to say more nonsense. He hurriedly took out a strange phone bug from his arms and said cautiously, Jin actually found out that we were recording, but we didn't. Ignore us. Intentionally, Akainu froze for a moment, and then his face was somber that a drop of water dripped out. This Jin is killing people. Quick. Before Akainu could speak, Garp was like a drowning man who grabbed a life-saving straw, hurriedly stood up from the ground, and ordered urgently, let me out, I'll see what's going on. Okay. The rear admiral from naval headquarters took a few steps forward, first placed the curtain, and then placed the phone bug in front of the curtain, then lowered his head and retreated to the back. After a few seconds, with the operation of the phone bug, a picture appeared on the screen. As if playing a movie, the screen began to move constantly. When Lule appeared on the screen, even though Lule was already confirmed to be resurrected, Garp couldn't help showing disbelief. 1 second, 3 seconds, 1 minute, as time goes by. Watching Lule dismantle the Seraph with his bare hands, he slammed Sengoku into the ground with one punch, and with a slap of both hands, a towering tree covered Marineford, and Sengoku's head exploded in the blink of an eye. The angry expressions of Akainu, Garp, Staff Crane, Aramaki, and Dark Horse gradually became frozen. Violent, manic, pervert, mighty. This is their first intuitive feeling about Lule, especially killing Sengoku Inspector General, killing it as soon as they say it. It is almost not sloppy, and they are not moved by Sengoku's proud and immortal spirit. Finally, when the image came to an abrupt end, Akainu, Garp, Staff Crane, Aramaki, and Dark Horse didn't seem to recover. Silently, ZZ. This is the sound of a few drops of magma that fell to the ground, burning the earth. Marine's elemental master, Sakazuki once again lost his way. Certainly, in such a distressing moment, not only Akainu, but even Garp, Alan Mew, Hema, and his staff all lost their composure, and the last bit of calm in his heart disappeared completely, and there was only hatred, anger, and wisps of fear for Lule, and there was no distinction in his mind. A thought flashed through. That is the birth of the ancestors of the sea, and this sea is going to be turned upside down. Call Marine, I'm going to kill him. After a while, a stern look flashed in Akainu's eyes, and he said with murderous intent, no matter how strong he is, Marine will not be afraid. This absolutely evil guy must be punished and killed. I will never allow a trace of it. Evil exists. That's right. The Dark Horse took a deep breath and said, Marine will not tolerate the existence of such a dangerous person. His existence has threatened the balance of the sea. Ha ha ha. Then let's do it. The tall and strong man with slender legs laughed loudly and said, I can't wait for some of my fruit. Having said that, a majestic fighting intent emerged in Huang Emu's eyes, and he said, that Luolei's wood style is very strong, but my sensen fruit is not weak. After this sentence, a power full of vitality erupted from Oromu's body. Boom. Another vibrating sound. I saw that Marineford, who had been very calm, began to shake. Under the incredible gaze of countless Marines, countless towering trees grew, and the continuous growth and winding of branches even wrapped up all those towering trees formed by wood style. Suck me, laugh, with the full power of the forest fruit. Those towering trees formed by wood style seemed to have lost their nutrients and begin to wither and fail rapidly. However, it's cool to breathe, but, when the wisps of sage body's chatula were absorbed into the body, Huang Mukai was surprised to find that the power of sensen fruit could not quickly digest and absorb this energy, but could only devour it little by little. I am most afraid of the sudden quietness of the air. Puff. After a few seconds, Aramaki stopped a little embarrassedly. He couldn't help the energy in the towering tree formed by wood style. Do it, pay the debt with blood. Ignoring Araki, who failed to pretend, there was a hint of firmness in the eyes of Staff Officer He. He lost the calmness and wisdom of the past, and some only had a chilling look. It is good. Seeing that Dark Horse, Aramaki, and Staff Crane all supported his decision, Marshal Marine, Akainu's expression condensed, and he wanted to issue an order to assemble. Wait a minute. But, at the critical moment, Garp, who was in a sluggish state, said in a surprising voice, this matter needs to be slowed down for a while. It's better to report it to the world government. We Marine can't handle this matter. What? Hearing this, Staff Officer Crane became unhappy and asked, Garp, don't you want to avenge Sengoku? He was tortured and killed by Lule. This, Dark Horse and Wild Mew also showed puzzled expressions. It stands to reason that with the relationship between Garp and Sengoku, to avenge Sengoku, Garp should respond positively. But, why not only do not respond? Still holding back. Wouldn't it be plastic brotherhood? Garp, you mean I can't hold it? Sakazuki said a little unhappy. No matter how strong this Lule is, first think we Marine will definitely be able to grasp it. Do not. Garp hesitated for a moment before saying in a positive tone, Sakazuki, you really can't control it, so let the 5 elders control it. Impossible. Sakazuki gritted his teeth and said resolutely. To put it in a bad way, he didn't want to report this series of things to the world government. T-Dolphin was killed, Marineford was destroyed, Sengoku was killed. Once these matters are reported to the world government, he could imagine the ugly faces of the officials of the world government, celestial dragons, including the 5 elders. And he, the Marine Marshal, I will definitely be reprimanded fiercely again. So, he, Akainu, must be able to grasp. Kill Lule. Wash away Marine's shame. Ah, that's it, that's it. I will tell you what happened in the Battle of Kamya more than 40 years ago. Seeing Akainu's incomparably determined appearance, Garp seemed to be a few years older again. A sad expression flashed across his bitter cheeks, and said with sigh, Lule has been resurrected, there is no point in hiding a lot of history. Well, I'll tell you the truth. What, there is still Mi Shin in the Battle of Kamya? Isn't Rox killed at the Battle of the Valley of the Gods? Quote. After this sentence, Dark Horse, Aramaki, and Staff Crane, including Sakazuki, all showed surprised expressions. All along, they all know that the history of the blank year is caused by the ancestors of the sea, Lule. But, how did Lule die? But there has never been a clear explanation. The top combat power of the sea who participated in the Battle of Shengu also kept silent about this matter. It seems that Lule's death has become a taboo. This also led Akainu, Hema and others to know that Lule is very powerful. He is an ancestor from the sea who can do whatever he wants. But I don't know how Lule was killed and disappeared into the sea. Back then, the ancestor of the sea, Lule was unscrupulous in the sea, relying on his own strength. He would do whatever he wanted, and did not take anyone or power in his eyes. In the end, after killing many celestial dragons, the world government was angry, already. So, the 5 elders used the Uranus, one of the 3 ancient weapons, and some devil fruits with rare attributes as bait, and laid a net on the island of Kamya, where the celestial dragons live. United Marine, Roger Pirates, Rox Pirate, the 3 commanders of CP0, to besiege Lule in the Valley of the Gods. When it comes to this, there was a rare look of sighing on Garp's old cheeks. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.